I'm live, pretty instantaneous as well, so straight into the action. Greetings, one and all. Fair, lovely Annie, your gentle ways have won me. You bring peace and joy and laughter everywhere. Where you go, the sunshine follows. You're a breath of spring and winter, and my heart and soul are always in your care. Oh, gentle Annie, gentle Annie, and my heart and soul are always in your care. When you touch me with your fingers, my cares and worries vanish, like the morning dew before the rising sun. When your eyes tell me you love me, then my soul is filled with wonder, and my love for you will live when life is done. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, and my love for you will live when life is done. You're a flower among the flowers, you're a bird song in the morning, you're the laughter of the children at their play. You're my hope, my joy, my wisdom, you're my reason just for living. You're my treasure, you're my very night and day. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, you are my very night and day. When the mountains all have tumbled and the earth has stopped its turning, when the winds don't blow and stars refuse to shine, when the moon has left its heaven and the seven seas are empty, I will still have gentle Annie on my mind. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, I will still have gentle Annie on my mind. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, I will still have gentle Annie on my I still have gentle Annie. Oh, I will still have gentle Annie on my still gentle Annie. Well, when I was a young man, I carried my plan, and I lived free like the road. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty Adba, I waltzed my Matilda. Then in 1916, my country said, son, it's time to stop rambling, there's work to be done. And they gave me a tin hat, and they gave me a dime, and they sent me away to the war. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as the ship pulled away from the quay. And amidst all the cheers, white flag waving and tears, we sailed off to Gallipoli. How well I remember the terrible day when the blood stained the sand and the water, and how in that hell that they called Suvla Bay, we were butchered like lambs to the slaughter. Johnny Turkey was ready, he primed himself well, he rained us with bullets and hailed us with shells. In 5 minutes flat, he'd us all blown to hell. There to blow us back home to Australia. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as we stopped to bury our slain. And we buried ours, and the Turks buried theirs, and we started all over again. Now us who are left did our best to survive in a mad world of blood, death, and fire. And for 10 weary weeks I kept myself alive, while the corpses around me piled higher. Then a big Turkish shell knocked me arse overhead, and I awoke in my hospital bed. I saw what it had done, twice I wished I were dead. I never knew there was worse things than that. And the band played a waltzing Matilda all around the green bush far and near. For to hang tent and pangs, a man needs both legs. No more waltzing Matilda for me. So they collected the crippled, the wounded, the maimed, and they shipped us back home to Australia. The armless, the legless, the blind, the insane, those proud wounded heroes of Suvla. And as our ship pulled into Circular Quay, I looked at the place where my legs used to be, and thank Christ there was no one there waiting for me, for to grieve and to mourn and to pity. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as they carried us down the gangway. And nobody cheered, they stood there and stared and turned all their faces away. And now every April I sit on my porch and I watch the parade pass before me. I look at the soldiers, how proudly they march, renewing old thoughts and past glory. And the old man marched slowly, all bent, stiff and sore, the tired old man from a forgotten war. The young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the same question. For I no more go sing Matilda, while young people don't answer the call. And year after year, their numbers grow fewer. Someday no one will march there at all. They'll go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, oh, go waltzing Matilda with me. And their ghosts may be heard as they pass along the billabong. Come waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, oh, come waltzing Matilda with me. And their ghosts may be heard as they pass along the billabong. Come waltzing Matilda. I give thee all, I can no more, the poor the offering, my heart to all the store that I can give to thee. A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of love full well, better for a heart that feels much more than can tell. Love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away. At least 'twill make them lighter paths, or give them if they stay. And even if care and moments flings a discord o'er life's happy strife, oh, let love but gently touch the strings slowly sweet again. Oh, let love but gently touch the strings slowly sweet. love, but gently touch the strings, 'twill all be sweet again. Therein lies the key, I guess, in one sense. How you doing, everybody? I hope all of the songs came across well enough. My guitar is not quite right when I was singing it, so my voice mightn't be perfectly pitched, even though I think it's okay. You know, my hearing is definitely sort of clearing up a bit since we were talking last night about the blockage in my nose, but I celebrated too soon. Um, Still a massive difference. Absolutely massive. This side is absolutely clear, so I know that the passageway is, you know, I don't mean to be crude or rude, but yeah, it's clear enough as far as I'm willing to go anyway. But this side, I thought I was clearing it off, but now I realize it's further down as well. So I think this is like the worm I have to get out of my system. And as I said, it's been there from the earliest of times. I used to always get terrible nosebleeds, and I had to go to hospital at least on one or two occasions. But otherwise, it would always be holding a rag to my nose for hours on end. It just wouldn't stop. So I think this build, maybe possibly added to it anyway, and built up over the years. I always had terrible trouble with my tonsils. So anyway, not to get diverted. Um, Guitar sounds good to my ears anyway, but I do detect slight variations there from what they should be set at. But in general, I hope it came across okay anyway. Yeah, probably boring for people to. It's not quite boring for me to play. I don't like playing other people's songs. Really, it's not what I do generally. Generally, I just mess away with my own songs. But yeah, the first song, Gentle Annie, there, excellent song. I played it before, and I think it's probably my PJ Encore account to open up, so that's why I call it still Gentle Annie. So it's just a song to open up, you know, with a beautiful song. And well, did you notice the word at the end? Let me just switch to it. I'm not going to speak too long about songs because I'll go definitely owe you to go straight into chat, right, and start from the top down. So yeah, tonight I'm just coming out for a couple of hours and just chatting openly. I was thinking to myself, I want to be fucking here all the time, having to just my own brain. I have to say something, or have to pick a topic and talk about that, because generally what happens is I end up talking for ages about it, get diverted, and start talking about loads of other things in the meantime. Where sometimes you just want to chill out, have a beer, like about a 4-pack of beer. So cheers. I was thinking about right alcoholic, but I'm not. Like it's just a 4-pack of beer, and um, that'll do. You know, that's more than enough, really. I think one or two would do to get you to just that alleviated um, position within yourself. Anyway, it's nothing to do with what's going on here. I could, and I have done obviously many times, Stone Cold Sober or Hangouts. So it's nothing to do with it. But yeah, well, we're all trying to deal with life in the best way we can. So who's to decide what's the best way to deal with life is? You know, every man has his story, every woman has her story. Let me just fast forward to the brilliant song, absolutely brilliant song. Macon McClancy covered it, traditional Irish uh, gathering. Macon McClancy, they had it all wrapped up over the years, close associations with Bob Dylan and Frank Sinatra, that sort of crowd. So it's all wrapped up. They have the whole fucking thing wrapped up, you know. But within what they produce, well, we can find our clues. If you're not looking upon all of this as a game of clues at this stage, I don't know what to say to you. And let's imagine for a second that, you know, all the answers that you saw came to you, just all knowing came to you. What would you do with it? Go tell people? What would you do with it? Honestly, what would you do with it? Oh, what would you do with it? You know, so that's a different thing. And even if you could, you had the ability and had the desire or the motivation to go and tell people or preach it or whatever, you know, um, you know, what sort of influence are you going to have? And before you know it, you'll be shut down or isolated. Although I don't think that's quite what happens. I think there's a different story in play. Absolutely. Remember, from the beginning, the story is in play. We were just finding out we're just coming out of Plato's cave, if you want to put it like that. Cavendish, I talked recently about Cavendish a few times, and I went through the paper, and as per usual, my thoughts to myself, I can get involved in this now and try to fucking understand all of the math involved, all of the equations being made, all of the taking all the experimental data and try to wrap my brain around it. But I already know that Cavendish didn't exist, right? So therefore something else is going on. And that's what I tend to do, is simplify everything. If my child can't understand that, although my child is 17 now, my beautiful Steve is 17, so I'm sure he can understand. Last time I saw his mum, she said, and I haven't seen her since, or I haven't seen her in a few years since that, but she said that he amazes her every day. Like, so, I mean, but you know, if you can't understand it as a child, if you can't um, not understand it as a child, with a child's mind, if a child asks you a similar question and you think you understand something, you can't explain to a child, but then you have it wrong. Then you have it wrong. You won't complicate it. So yeah, I could spend loads of time going into Cavendish and all of his stuff, but it was brought back to my mind, I guess, because I had different thoughts in it. And my ultimate question turned out to be, now I know already, right, that the man didn't exist. There we have Henry Cavendish, HC 83, 83 referencing 11, and also 388824, the number of Jesus, we're told, right? So what would that mean? Well, it's all connected to you, right? So we have the heart center, we have the head center, and we have the groin gut center, if you want to group it into that, those three settings, and we have the left side and the right side. This is our basic vision. So everything has to be viewed in terms of us, right? We are that splinter, that spark of creation, of the creator themselves. When you externalize it, you're crafting idols. That's the only way I think you can look at it. And that's the way we were meant to look at it. So, yeah, when we understand different game of play, start looking for the clues, we will find them everywhere. And needs must that is the case. Just to put Henry Cavendish to bed, I mean, he didn't exist. Cave and dish, right? Cave in Plato's cave in a petri dish. This is pretty much what's happening. Well, we're coming out of the cave now to reality illusion, which is being shattered, right, on all fronts. When we realize we're ultimately at the top of a tree trunk, right? Decapitated tree, a stump, um, that juts out over invading waters that was never meant for us, and there is a boundary defined by, first of all, the dimensions, the power, and the dimensions of the power associated with, and the dimensions of the barrier. Right, it's a permeable barrier around the exterior perimeter. We have seepage, if you want to put it like that, through, and we get a nice water buildup, which is outside the range of the traveling sun. The sun is itself a reflection of something else. So everything comes back to something else. Everything sort of comes on all fronts back to one thing. The tree of life is all encompassing, right? We're promised reunification of the tree of life in Revelation 66. Book 66, chapter 22, 2 and 2, right? Reverse to 2 and connected, you get a love heart, right? 2 and 2 combined give you, well, 1. But what is 1? 1 is the loneliest number. Shit, I mean, I can't play music. This is the one I've been meaning to learn and play. 1 is the loneliest number you'll ever know. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1. You know, sang that. Uh, momentarily escaped my bringing forth Harry Nilsson. Harry Nilsson, that's who it is. Harry Nilsson, who became quite a big name in and around early 80s, late 70s, I think. That was the sort of period. And well, what do I discover? Well, it's Paul McCartney, right? So when he sings 1 is the loneliest number, and you look at the lyrics, have I linked the post? Just type it in yourself. You'll see him sitting at the piano. And these are different lyrics that are presented. That if you type in 1 by Harry Nilsson lyrics, you get a different set of lyrics that are presented and are played within the song. And within the song itself, I nearly bring it up. Like I said, I haven't learned to share the screen. This is how easy I can get diverted. Things I don't talk about. When you look at the lyrics themselves, massive reference to the Beatles. Also, "Falling Star" is mentioned within it, but it is a massive reference to Alice in Wonderland, which talks with the where he talks with the Walrus and the Carpenter. So all of this is encoded within everything. So why would one be the loneliest number compared to what other number? Well, compared to zero, all is zero, and all is incorporated and encompassed within the zero. If we think about the physical world, and mathematics, we're told, represents the physical world. Einstein, with all his equations, Einstein one stone, with all his equations, perfectly describe this, we're told, and it's been proven in a million ways. So it's a universal truth. So let's take it as a universal truth. But what we have to do is turn it a little, right? So it is the truth, but it's about the context. So when we have the context right and we get the language straight, well, maybe we'll see universal truth in Einstein. Needs must we do, because Einstein is one stone. The stone is the S tone. The S tone is the TH. It's all about frequency, vibration, and well, none of these would exist without an input energy. So energy, frequency, and vibration. But the S tone is the TH. How do you pronounce it? TH. I had the thought, right? The thought to I was going to say verb. No, it's not. Uh, Materially express. That's it. The S tone, which is the TH, which is which references the theta, which is the zero, and the one, which is the circle and the diameter. The circle being representing the immaterial, the no beginning and the no end, and well, the one representing the material, the countable. This is why all of math, in terms of numbers, are located somewhere between zero and infinity, which is the twisted zero, right, which is the eight on its side. So, in a sense, when we connect it to us, well, we ourselves are infinite. We are outside of time. We're having experience within time. So, once again, if you're not looking upon all of this as a sort of a game of clues, well, that's down to you. That's all I can say. Because as I said, if you ultimately were granted all of the answers that you sought, what would you do? So everything is pre-written. And just as I mentioned, the eight, Back to the Future, we're getting back to a prior state. And what was that point of juxtaposition, if you want to put it like that? Juxtaposition, yeah, altering position. Well, 88 miles per hour, right? So there's that 88 again. What might it represent? These are questions for all of us. It all comes back to, well, the basic things for all of us. So when we start thinking in terms of all of the basic things we were told as children, we were told to our own children, the very first thing, and I've said this as well, it's now that all of these questions that your child would ask you as a young, so hopefully, because the answers aren't forthcoming, even though, they supposedly are. But yeah, why is the sky blue? What is water? Where are we? All of these sort of things. And yeah, these are all questions now that, if you've come along this path, the correct path, right? The path towards enlightenment. So you get lighter and lighter as you go up. This symbolically represents the understanding or the knowing that we are not the material, right? Our material feet are rooted on the ground, right? The G round. Um, so yeah, we know that we are not the material. So we move our way up. L-I, right? So I'm L, I am this material aspect, my body. L-I-G, the groin, right? H, my heart. T, my head. The head, the T represents the head, the top, right? Top hat. You see so many references to cat and cats in general in antagonist screen names. Conspiracy Cats is one, Cat Earth is another, and there's tons more around. What might this all be about if these people are playing their parts, what might be being pointed towards. Well, cat is C-A-T, right? So I have to see what A-T represents. So there we have A, which is the H, with an upward leaning. You see, if you accepted that all there is just that material you, then there's no distinction between up and down. Whereas really, there is, but in a symbolic sense, within you yourself, we are the body, right? B-O-D. There we have O-D in the center, B-O-D-Y. Y is equivalent to I. So we're being told to be O-D. What does O-D represent? Well, there's the O. Divide the O with your diameter, or with your one, the 0 and the 1. There we have D, reverse D with the O, or OD, right? Or dodo. When you divide the OD in two, you get dodo. Jesus is the dodo. You're the dodo. I'm the dodo. But just some more well-known names. Paul McCartney is the dodo. Paul / Fall. There was two of them necessarily, that replacement. So they're the dodos. Well, this is what they're telling you. The dodo came about because of something. Right? The dodo is an effect. Our divided state is divided from a prior state. So what is that? Well, we're told in the Bible the number of man is 616. Consult Genesis 1 and Genesis 1 and Revelation 66. Maybe that's all you need, I think, right? This is what we're being told. And, well, we're promised reunification with the tree of life. The good, pure heart is, anyway, let your heart be lighter than a feather, that you won't enter through the pearly gates. That love but gently touch the strings of pearl strings, right? Pearls associated with oysters or eye stars. The walrus and the carpenter features oysters, right? And if I was just going to go on forever, I'd fucking bring that story up again within Alice in Wonderland and show you that connection. And even within Disney's movie version, which was the most expensive movie of any kind to that date, which was 1951 or 51, I think. He combined Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass into one movie, so the two became one, all symbolic as well. But within the story of the walrus and the carpenter, there he had 12, the walrus and the carpenter conniving, scheming to steal or to devour oysters, 12 oysters, with the mother oyster, which is how Walt Disney represented it. So, pearls come from oysters or eye stars. So when we have the context right, all the different clues will fit into place. R-I star, because R-I star, CH us, right? So CH us references CHURCH, right? Church, the Church of You. So remember I talked about Henry Cavendish? It's CH backwards, HC, right? So all clues for us, again, the man didn't exist. So don't spend too much time on that. And just sort of mull over it, keep it simple, think like a child, and take what I need from it. That's all you have time for anyway. No more, as we've been told, have you to, in order to know something, spend years of your life delving into it, studying it, building up. Certain things you do, obviously, when you're talking about physical crafts, there's no doubting about that. But in terms of understanding, remember, we are of a greater source than our reality here. What was one of my favorite quotes? I have to look it up now. Hang on. One of my favorite passages from the Bible, and I haven't even read it all. I have it written down here somewhere. I haven't read it all, but I reckon I came by certain parts just because that's the way it's written. But what's that? How am I going to find that now? Hang on, let me just. There's so many things written down. I think it'd be worth just taking a few seconds to find it anyway. Hopefully you think so yourself. But it exemplifies that we are not the material here. And this is one big thing. It brought me back to atheism. I was just thinking tonight about one of my aunts. And the last time I saw my beautiful aunt, my Steve loved that particular aunt. He never saw most of my family from my earlier times, I haven't seen most of my family on my father's side or mother's side in years. But um, yeah, I was just thinking about that tonight when, what was it, 10 years ago now, 2010, just before I left for England. I bought her the God Delusion book, for her and her husband Peter. And, um, just not forcefully, but we were talking about these things and absolutely certain that this is the truth and nothing but the truth. But now, how far have I come? So now I realize, yeah, it's not a material realm alone. This is what's been pushed here, and it's, as I say, been pushed, uh, well, for greater reason. You know, God wouldn't exist without the devil. The devil wouldn't exist without God, right? And we showed that. Well, it's not that we show. I'm not going. We showed that. But when we get the words God and devil, put them together and reverse one of the D, there we have theta in the center. So once we recognize what the theta represents, the S tone, right? You take the sword, the S word is. See what you say is if you're a creator, but then that is loaded with potential power, potential energy. And if you misplace that energy on something that is not, well, then that's just a crying shame. It's a crying waste, right? So this is what we're sort of warned against. But yeah, to take the sword from the stone is to take the S word, which is, right? That powerful word, from the S tone, which is TH. Now, I mentioned Paul Fall was a dodo. Uh, Many others were as well. Present day, Thom Yorke is a dodo. He was, if you look into Thom Yorke, 42 things about Thom Yorke, just type in, from Radiohead. And yeah, I think it was number 6 said that Thom was nicknamed Dodo and Salamander as a youngster. So he was a dodo also. Michael Jackson faked his death and returned as the Five Alive Dodo. If you don't know anything about that, type in those Michael Jackson Five Alive Dodo into your YouTube. So um, there's a big spin around the dodo for some reason. So it's up to us to figure it out. If Thom Yorke is of any significance outside of being a member of one of the most fantastic bands ever to be contrived. It's all a contrived thing. Yeah, well, that's fine. But what can you do there? Yeah. It's like, oh shit. Well, I play guitar, right? So when you're listening to music over the years, you admire certain things in certain people and songwriting abilities. For someone to be able to write a beautiful song, poignant song, or whatever, you're going to respect it, right? It's like anybody. It's like anything else. I was going to say, if you build cars from scratch and you're a builder yourself, if someone comes up with a humdinger, you're going to just obviously admire and respect and pay due um, applause, I guess, to the effort or to the man behind the effort. So it's the same thing. But when it comes to music, it's a different thing. Music touches our soul. It's a part of us. We're here to make our own music. We make our own music every time we talk, every time we translate, I guess, the thought into the sound. I don't know if we ever did that with my Steve, and well, but it would definitely be one thing that I would definitely easily do. If we were living together or something. Hey Steve, let's just communicate. Let's just communicate via music all day long. Let's see how it goes. Whoever loses has to clean the toilet next week. Something like that. But yeah, we're here to make our own music, and we do. The thought is expressed, and well, there we have the th as well. Thought, spell it out. THOTH. Then we have the G inserted. So what does the G represent? The grounded center, this material center, the groin, right? The gut, So different thoughts on that. I'm just going to find this quote and go immediately into chat then, because it's so rude of me. I don't want to make a hash of it now. Hang on. I don't want to make a hash of it. That's why I don't want to sort of misquote it. Yeah, so many things here. I could just spend the whole show going through just the notepad here from Windows, and just all the stuff I've written down. And even if I did spend a whole few hours doing it, I'd probably only get to the first 10 fucking entries or something. Because I don't sort of study this or go back over it or try to formulate it into anything, which, maybe is something to do, but at the same time, as I mentioned last time, what then? I mean, I'll get there now. Hang on. It'll be worth it now. Well, you might think so. It seems like everything's coming through grand on YouTube live hangouts here. Now, as I said the last time, I didn't look into it yet, but there must be some sort of facility to share your screen if everything is coming through. Otherwise, if I want to continue doing this, which I probably don't think I will be anyway, I probably have to download OBS or something like that, and learn how to use that. Oh, I have it. I found it. So here we go. It's from 1 John 4:44 as well. 1 John chapter 4 verse 4. Well, year of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is He in you than he that is in the world. So I'll say it again, right? Because it took a while to find it. Year of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4, chapter 4, verse 4. Well, therefore, everything for a reason, and we're not left alone here. So there'll be clues planted everywhere, pretty much everywhere, for you to find. Only when you develop the eyes, which you've been encouraged all the way. This is what it's all about, isn't it? This is what life is about. It's us coming out of this cave and beholding reality. As I've said so many times, flat Earth is just the beginning. I wanted to just come on because I was talking to someone today, and it was all right, like just asking, have you heard about flat Earth and all this? And he was going, yeah, I've heard it. Put up his objections about gravity, conspiracy theories. I don't know that much about it, but he was a bit open-minded to it. What his upshot is, look, I'm just one guy. I can't do anything about it. And you went, okay, well, if one should awaken, right? I mean, he had two children he was stoned and their whole future. And I actually said, well, I mean, that's fair enough, but your children could turn out to be leaders of the galaxy someday if you're in that frame of mind. So that does depend on you, the individual. But we all are children this, don't we? But I sort of left, I only told him for a couple of minutes. We shook hands as well, and there was no ill feeling whatsoever. But I was saying to myself, shit, I mean, I never get to it's not be challenged as such, I always have to bring up the conversation, and it's always back to square one, the same thing, which is fine. But that's why, as I go back into chat now, or as I go into chat, just let's chat away, and I'll see what occurs without thinking about what I'm going to say next. Right? Let me just bring a line up from the last verse I'll read from Gentle Annie. When the mountains all have tumbled, right? The mountains have tumbled. The mountains are trees, and the earth has stopped its turning. Well, the earth doesn't turn, right? When the winds don't blow and stars refuse to shine, when the moon has left the heavens and the seven seas are empty, I will still have Gentle Annie on my mind. Gentle Annie, I will still have Gentle Annie on my mind. So within the name itself, something significant is going on. But the Macon and Clancy were the Irish singers of that. But it goes back apparently to, and I mentioned this before, 1850s, 1860s, and some composer called Stephen. Anyway, that's a different matter. Stephen something or other, you can look it up yourself. But yeah, the truth of this earth is always known, as encoded into many different forms. Um, it's up for us again to read it. And well, that big divide is actually being breached now, that material immaterial. So once we look at our bodies in a different light, and this blend of an immaterial source with this material presence here, then we can start piecing things together in a much more sort of coherent way. And it's all understand that it's all a pathway. We have to simplify everything, take everything step by step, and we will come towards our own personal truth, and that's ultimately what it's all about. It's not unfortunate. There's no telling anybody else, right? You can't. Of course, you can meet open minds and open-minded people in many different formats, but ultimately, um, yeah, you're left to figure all of this out yourself. If you're blessed enough to be in a beautiful, familiar family situation where you have all of this unity around you, well, then the onus is on you to make it the very best you can and put it in this different context, which is a wondrous context, right? I mentioned about my aunt Teresa, and Stephen loved her, and even though he met her only a couple of times. But yeah, the last thing I saw her, or the parting gift that I gave, was the God delusion. She was big into religion at the time, and I wonder where she is now. But of course, if I if I went back to life, I would have a completely different set of books to offer. I would definitely would. But probably the most prominent book on the dodo bird. I wonder actually what the most prominent book on the dodo bird is. What's the tome? What is it? Because you can be sure, because the bird didn't exist, the more comprehensive it is, the more laden with clues it will be. And yeah. Anyway, this greater story is unfolding before us. The time has always been, but the time is now, isn't it? More than ever. And I did ask that question the last time. I asked it as well tonight to my mother, actually. Or not that I asked it, but well, I did ask it. I guess is life is the only way we can look at life sort of as a dream, because we understand that all there is the moment, right? And the moment is gone, it's gone forever. So everything that's come before, everything that's come after is a thought, right? Whereas, yeah, all there is a series of moments. And there we have Mo, meant, right? M-O, Mother Earth, Moon, M-O-O-N, Moon is feminine, the sun is masculine. Why did they make it like that? Well, because one is a reflection of the other. One is taken from the other. And, well, this is this division, this experience and division we're going through. But yeah, we wouldn't have been thrown into this experience without the ability to make sense of it and to unify ultimately. I think it is about unification, and it's unification within. So yeah, if you are lucky enough to be in a familiar and a loving situation, make that the best that you can make it. You can also work on yourself personally. If you're on your own, I think you can bridge that gap. All the instruction is there for us to put the pieces together and, well, once again, apply it to ourselves. So yeah, I'll leave that behind. Gentle Annie. And the second song I sang was, the band played a Waltzing Matilda. I'm not going to speak about that. I sang that before, but a lovely little what do you call it? I probably sang it a bit loud as well, but a lovely little one of those melodies that sticks with you, isn't it? Oh, sing Matilda, oh, sing Matilda, who come and sing Matilda with me. And the ghosts may be heard as they march around the boat. Come waltzing Matilda. One of those late night pub songs as well. But yeah, and My Heart in Loop then, of course, and that is more Secret Seal Up. One thing I realized as well, it all comes back to the clouds. Let's focus our attention on how the clouds work on a flat Earth. Why the underside of all the clouds, um, formless and flat, level, right? Why? What's happening here? These are the basic questions. You don't have to believe me about the banding of the clouds, the circular ring-like fashion they form in, almost like a ring. It's a three-quarter of a ring, a wreath, I call it, but it's a continuous span series of those. So you don't have to worry even about that. That's a later thing. You don't have to worry about the repeating patterns and recognizing that. Ask yourself the basic questions to start off with, and let's hear the answers. Let's hear the answers. As I've said many times, they have killed the ether, but it's a fake death. You can't kill the ether. When we bring the ether, resuscitate that Lazarus, right? Jesus wept no more. Well, then everything has a different context when we think about the word itself and even the construct. Remember the old A, or the old spelling of ether, A, with co-joined with the E, so it was saying upper limb, uh, and then the A here, and then the E coming off here. However you describe that, you understand what I mean. So the connection made between the A and E, THER, and well, then we have heart, HEARTH, and then we have earth, EARTH. So this intimate connection being made between these three. When we look at the word itself, earth or heart or ether, are what? TH, friends. We are theta. We have, a divine nature to us. You know, that's all. This is what the TH represents. We hit the T again. If we start at the H center, everything has to go through the heart, right? The heart is the bridge between the material and the immaterial, right? If we go upwards, we go towards the T, right? So the two sides meld in, the crossbar goes upwards. Whole E spirit, that goes upwards. So gives us the T. If we go downwards, right, this is what gives us the L, right? The two sides of the H are brought together, and we take a lower leaning. So H goes to L with the E, right? Or remember, we're divided down the center with the E, the whole E separated. Well, then we go to hell, right? And we end up in the heliocentric model, the material, the devil, right? This is what it is. This is what the theta represents. So God is the zero and the one, the theta. God is all things. So these are the new contexts we have. We have. So we have. Who am I telling here? So I'm not going to be telling anybody anything. But I think we have to be thinking, right? Understanding that there's a greater game afoot. So we start looking for all the clues. And once again, just as I mentioned, Holy Spirit, or in the name of the Father, the Son, where we point the whole E, right? Spirit, Amen. Amen. B-men, C-men? Okay. Well, what I was saying, go back to your earliest memories. Think about things you were taught first, what you taught to your children. Now look for the special significance in that. It's as easy as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. So it's all in the letters. And the more significant the word, let's just take God, for instance, the more onus there is on us to understand the letters. Why were the letters G, O, D chosen to represent, well, the highest power, as we understand the sound or the word to the thought. Right? So these are different. These are questions we need to ask, and a very pertinent question as well. I was out with my neighbor's God, or sorry, as you said, dog, just briefly earlier on. So why is dog and God backwards? Why are they reversed? Now, forget about other languages. Other languages, people ask me this so many different times. Every country has a Masonic lodge. The true picture is painted via symbols, via letters, or symbols represent the letters of whatever alphabets in play, and numbers themselves, and the relationship between numbers and symbols. But also, always going back to a story being told through these crafted characters. That's all there is. So there's a prime story being told. Ultimately, for me, that story goes back to Ars Darkness, the decapitated tree of life. We are here ensconced in life. Tree of life is all encompassing. So when we understand this context, well, then we can take it from there. Okay, so I'll leave those behind and I'll go into YouTube. You can see big Nike on my t-shirt here. So yeah, there's a few people in chat. I'm not sure how many people are in chat. I'll just say greetings to all. Hope all is well. So I won't. Okay, I'll skip down through, and any questions or anything like that, let's interact a bit if you want. There's so much fucking bullshit going on at the minute. Honest to fuck. Ugh. I was listening earlier on to Rumpus fucking waffling away for hours, and then all of these characters that have been long since dismissed are being re-invited back onto the scene and given prime time. We know they're proven liars, right? And what are you going to do? Trust proven liars. So you know everything out of their mouth is going to be distorted in one way or another. They'll confirm and support official stories and everything. But as I say, we were always meant to see through these role players, right? So what you do as the individual then with that knowledge, I guess, well, that's up down to you, isn't it? And that's why I keep saying you have to bring it back to this understanding as a greater game and play at it as a personal game. 9/11 was an inside job. It applies to you, applies to me, applies to us all. These people who play their roles, I think they're let in on a greater secret. And I don't think this secret, it's just the truth, right? So the truth is known. Let's just put it like that. And this is why they can, I don't know, I shouldn't, yeah. They've definitely been led into, see, for instance, 9/11. I've talked about that. They all, to the man, almost defend an official story. They're all much more clever than that. All these all these years later. So my mind tells me they all have to be let in on the greater truth regarding 9/11. And you look, if you've looked into it anyway, you're going to come out that it was all media fakery, right? So what is the greater significance to it? Well, there's a greater symbolic significance to everything here, to absolutely everything. And this is the sense we have to look in now. That's the only way I can make sense of all of this and all of these cooperative roles being played on both sides, on all sides. Otherwise, I'm going to be sort of cast in judgment. I'd be thinking to myself, I was thinking about it. If all is as it seems, these people should be hanged. And I'm saying that, putting myself in someone's shoes, thinking that if this is as is, as it seems, as is, I need my hang myself. I wouldn't need anyone else to do it. That would be my punishment handed out. Because there's so much fucking hurt and pain and associated with this life, and it doesn't need to be like that. So as far as I would see it in that sense, these people are defending that force of deception, that force of the father of lies. What are you going to say? So yeah, if it was me and I was engaged in all these things and profiting from all of these things, I reckon one was on about 100 grand a year. Mark Taylor informed me when we were on Google Hangout years ago. Mark Taylor informed me after the Hangout ended, and I was just, come on, man, what's going on here? Uh, how much you getting paid for doing this? 50 grand? And he laughed and he said, 50 grand? I was on 50 grand in the 80s. I bet you were, man. I bet you were. Because you see, with every lie, you need teams of people in place to carry the lie. There always has to be infiltration. There always has to be control. And this has been mastered throughout the ages. But this is all, again, one pathway we can travel down. But these people are all, satanic and working for the devil, and they all have this blood bond or something which keeps them united in deception against their fellow man. Or, well, we can entertain other possibilities, and I've certainly done that as well. I've certainly done that. And these are the possibilities. Entertains a greater game and play. These people are let into greater secrets. Don't think any of them would have known about the Aristarchus. I don't think you get into that level of secrecy, right? But you're left into something anyway. And one of those things you have to be left into is like the truth about 9/11. That was a media fake extravaganza. But then your own mind would, if you're in that situation, ask yourself, well, what was the greater reasoning behind it? You have to be told that as well, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's a big secret in play, and people are playing their parts on both sides. It's up to you to recognize who is who and what's what. These are all artificial relationships in a big sense. The very, very vast majority of anyone listening to me speaking here will never meet me. But at least you have, in one sense, you have the potential to meet me. We could easily, push him to shove, do that. But look at a lot of these characters. You don't even have a grasp on who they are, where they are. Brenda Rumpus is a character. Even some flat Earth characters. Russian Vid, someone who hides his face. A few others as well. But even by showing your face doesn't mean that much overall. But it is just as a gradated layer. But yeah, everything, as I see it anyway, is being controlled. We're all being corralled, herded. We're all being sort of said and led. When I say we are all being, I'm talking about genuine people out there. This is the intent behind all of these setups. It is the biggest stage. It is the biggest arena in history, in the universe. At this moment in time, the flat Earth arena is absolutely massive, But to think that it wouldn't be controlled ultimately by the creator himself, herself, whatever. But yeah, if you think it wouldn't be controlled in any sub-level way, well, you're crazy, right? You're crazy. And, well, we were always meant to see through these levels of controls. So in a sense, the onus is on you as the individual. It just depends who you are, what sort of questions you're asking. And, I mean, what do we want from all of this? Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? What do we want from all of this? Anyway, so I'll not get bogged down in that. And I'll say greetings to Pete Shea. He was first here. Well done, Pete. Greetings, you say, one and all. Well, greetings to you, Pete Shea. All in one. One for all for one. E pluribus anum. Aristarchus, right? Aristarchus, singular source to all luminaries, all stars called after Aristarchus. Why are more people not considering a singular source to all of these skylines? If you went out and took a snapshot of a day, everything is moving. All of these lights are moving in unison. Take a snapshot of a week, slightly different, snapshot of a month, etc. But one on a day-by-day basis, everything appears to be moving in unison. And why is it not being investigated more as a possibility? It's crazy, isn't it? Crazy, unless, well, yeah, unless the argument has been controlled, and it is, and I think in one sense needs must be controlled, right? If it's something we entered into here, the state of division, and we set ourselves this challenge, there's no one who won't agree that life is a massive challenge. Well, there's a reason. This is my point. There's a reason we have to accept and we understand there is a reason. Let's make inroads towards finding out what that reason is. Hurdles at every path. It's all a learning process. Yeah. So this is the only pathway I think is worthwhile. I think so. I mean, any other thought process doesn't work. Doesn't work that I've come across anyway. Religious alone thought process doesn't work at all. The Big Bang, the scientific heliocentric approach doesn't work at all. Doesn't work at all. So down to a couple of options. As I say, I'm forced into this existence, or I consent into this existence for higher purposes. And the fact that there are so many clues laid out for us everywhere, um, and we have the ability, the mind, the being to process everything, tells me that, well, yeah, we set ourselves this task, this great challenge called life, and well, there are ways around. So let's take it from there. Let's, as I say, not spend too much time on the antagonists. They'll just bring you back to the same argument over and over again. Meanwhile, you forget about the deeper, more simpler questions and how it all applies, well, to you, the beautiful, wondrous being that you are. What other words are there for it? There are no words, right? There are no words when we consider it properly. So anyway, flat Earth stuff. How you doing? Flat stuff Earth. Stuff flat Earth. Is it? What am I getting? Hang on, let me read that again. Flat stuff Earth, right? How you doing, flat stuff Earth? I don't think I've seen you before. Flat stuff Earth. That's a funny name. There's probably 100,000,001 sock accounts around anyway. Sky Fried Brains. How you doing, Sky Fried Brains? You're an interesting character, Brian. When you brought up the moon comparisons there from what we'd see in Ireland compared to South Africa. South Africa, it was South Africa, yes. I think it was South Africa where you compared with to Brian, but South Africa was about 2 hours behind. But yeah, South Africa, and you showed it just a slightly different orientation. Massive clue for us. Massive, absolutely massive clue for us. So if we imagine a massive contoured barrier, mirror-like screen, and we imagine ourselves being tiny little creatures in relation to it, but having a specific relational position to one another, me in South Africa, you in, not me in South Africa, me in Ireland, right? Me in Ireland and you in South Africa, then if we are looking at the same image of the moon, right, which is what we're looking at, and you see it orientated or rotated from a slightly different orientation, right, from upright, to me, this tells me and you about our personal interrelationship with one another, positionally wise, on the flat Earth. But we have to bear in mind what the contour of this barrier is. And again, this is all important. We live in the outer barrier, where it begins low at the north and highest at equatorial areas, where it goes all the way around. Right, and then lowest at the southern peripheral, so there's a wide barrier system as I picture it anyway. I ask you this question as well. Mount Baru, right? Mount Baru is Aristarchus, which is Yggdrasil. It's the same thing, the decapitated tree of life. Polaris could be 20 miles up. Polaris could be 20 miles. So Mount Everest, by way of context, is 6 miles up. Polaris could be 20 miles up, but so bright and intense that you'd see it from anywhere on Earth, well, up to a certain point. So this is something to bear in mind as well. When we're asked, or when you ask how science determines like distances to stars, well, the intensity, the brightness of the star is always brought in as a factor. So if, for instance, a star showed a certain brightness next to a standard candle, is what they call it, that is known. So they know, for instance, they know the output, they know the consistency of the sun, so they'll base everything else on that, which they got all wrong anyway, right? But they will be able to calculate the distance based on the apparent brightness and yeah, if they're wrong about the composition, which of course they are, they could be massively out then regarding distances. If something is twice as bright, but twice as far away, how would you know? So I think they're sort of pointing us towards a line of thinking we need to go down as well. And when I mentioned that about Polaris, yeah, Mount Meru could be 20 miles high or 15 miles high, but so intense and its expression so intense that how would we know? How would we know? How would we gauge it? But okay. Anyway, that's for a different matter. But yeah, everything's connected, of course. But yeah, the contour of the outer barrier, low at the north, low at the south, and then we have the highest point along the equator or equator. in an elliptical fashion. We're told that the sun is at the center and all of the orbiting bodies travel in an elliptical fashion on annual basis, on a seasonal basis, on a monthly basis, on a daily basis. So the same pattern is adhered to. Everything travels in elliptical above us. So therefore, my thinking is the Earth, in terms of its confines, is elliptical or eye-shaped or oval. And yeah, we have this movement, this central core moving. The barrier itself is breathing, and it responds, and it's indeed generated from this central Aristarchus magma core. So yeah, as the tree, right, this tree stump at the center, it's ridiculous, right? As it rises up and falls down, we get the inwards and outwards spiraling of the sun and the rest of the skylights as well, which are all reflections of a primary central source. That's where I'm at. How about you? How about you, Skyfly Bry? You mentioned Aristarchus, all right, but how about you, Skyfly Bry? What's the sun to you? You're going to tell me it's a flaming ball of gas 93 million miles away. Well, I mentioned that as well. 93 million miles, MLS, right? If that was millimeters, too much of a difference there. How many millimeters does 93 million translate to in terms of miles? Well, it turns out that it comes out to 58 and 7/8 miles, which is very close to Kármán line distance, which they tell us is about 60, give or take, because it's a vague zone, it's a transition zone. All clues for us. That's what I said. The barrier is, it's not a hard and fast barrier, it's an energized barrier, it's a breathable, if you want to put it, my Ireland lung by Radiohead, my FE long. It's a breathable, permeable thing, but it is a big area as well. So 60 miles being the average. As you come down, it dissipates, not dissipates. Yeah, just this vagueness associated with it anyway. But it's this energized, invisible barrier holding back the waters beyond. We have a mirrored sky, and we have everything beneath an evacuation zone because we're in a broken system. Nothing is natural. This is a word we have to get straight as well as the natural and the physical world. Yeah, nothing is natural here. So let's reduce everything back to first principles and start re-questioning on that level. For me, yeah, it's we're living within a bubble, holding back saline waters beyond. At the barrier, we have this energized reflection, right, which from Aristarchus, and we have a disassociation of the saline waters beyond, allowing soil particulate, chlorine particulate, salt particulate in particular to come through, and also freshwater particulate. And immediately beneath beneath the energized barrier, we have an evacuated zone, what the science calls space, and it's where everything has been expelled, right? Everything's been expelled, but as like a punch, like if you hit any solid object with punch, you'll have a force wave which dissipates the further you go away from the contact point. This is pretty much what's happening when we move away from the barrier. So at lower levels, we have a dissipation of these energies, and well, we have the atmosphere as we are well accustomed to. But what are we accustomed to? Anything? Tell me what a cloud is. How does a cloud remain flat always underneath? But on all sides and the top, we have this formation, this pattern expressed. What's going on there? I say this energy, this reactionary energy, which was never meant for anything because for us underneath, because we're in this broken system, cannot reach the underside of the clouds, right? It can only reach the top and the sides. And this is what's happening, clouds themselves are, yeah, soil particulate. And it's a soil particulate that stays in place via the resonance, via the Earth's energy resonating with this Earth ether energy environment and cymatics. And it's via the process in the sun coming around, the great agitator. It starts off all of these interactions with the water particulation everywhere. And then you have these clouds absorbing the water and when the time comes, and combining or whatever, and when the time comes, then they get saturated and releases rain. In colder climes, when the sun is at a different relative position, these rain water particulates will fall when when the cloud becomes saturated. But by the time they come to the ground, they have frozen into sleet or snow flakes. So yeah, sorry about that. Now, Matrix. Sorry, let me go through. Daylight, Ohio. How you doing, man? Oh, was I singing and you said sounds like two cats fucking on a hot tin roof? Yeah, what are you gonna do with that? Let's see what. All right, well, okay, you were just kidding. I know you're kidding, man. I was going to say, what are you going to do with that? Say what you have to say. As long it's any need for any wrenches, it's just only if someone's ridiculous. Otherwise, just ignore someone, put them on block if you don't want to hear what they have to say. There's too much sort of wrench power and mute power going on these days. But at this stage, we should realize who are the clowns here and who aren't. So I definitely have to do a tutorial here on YouTube and see. I don't want to press any buttons though now because I might end up turning something off, but it seems like it should easily have the capabilities of sharing screen, that sort of thing. So that's for the next time. But anyway, I'm just going to stick with chat. Jennifer Winterburn, how you doing, Jennifer? I had a shave today. Jennifer, this gone back ages. I just shaved off my beard as I do on sort of bi-monthly basis. Not every 2 months, I suppose. It's a bit too much. So yeah, just I was talking about rain. Then we have air, right? Rain, rare association between those. Hair, yeah, HAIR. So, but thanks, Jennifer, and how you doing? Dr. Brunson Honeydew, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Matrix Media, I think I said hello as well. Irving, how you doing? TT, good to see you, man. It's just this is going back ages now. There's a 100 millibar pressure at the surface and 10 millibars at 120,000 feet. So there's a vacuum up there, no barrier between. Excellent. Well, listen, I've been considering this for a long time now, and yeah. So what's causing it? This is the thing. This is what's causing this pressure differential or temperature differential. What's causing everything to layer in the way it layers, right? TT. What again? Why are the clouds flat on the underside? What is our flat Earth explanation for this? We know whatever ball Earth explanation we're going to get is nonsense. We're not going to get. Well, listen to it first of all, but there'll always be more to it. But what is your own personal explanation for that? What accounts for this pressure differential? What accounts for this temperature differential as we rise as well? For me, the simplest explanation is, well, the most ridiculous sounding, right? We live in an enclosure. We live in an enclosure which separates us from waters beyond, saline waters beyond. When this enclosure was so it's hijacked. I mean, I guess there's a story too. Who cut down the trees, for instance? I mean, how many people do you actually hear talking about trees? How many flooders did you hear talking about giant trees these days? Not many. And this is not right. This is not right. This should be on everybody's tongue because it's the basis of everything. It comes back to the heart of everything. And you know, there was someone who was talking about Bobby Sands. Bobby Sands was an Irish Republican hero who was said to have gone on a hunger strike and survived 66 days uh, until he succumbed to starvation, for the cause. I think it's all bullshit. I mean, forgive me, but I think it's all bullshit. I think it's not. I mean, it's a story being told, but within the story, if we take it literally, we sort of lose. We were always meant to see beyond the literal. And where was he held? In the H block. in Northern Ireland, a sort of infamous prison complex in the H block, 66 days. Very interesting. Six, if you notice, is the inverse of nine. So we have an upper leaning with the nine and lower leaning with the six. Nine represents the T, the six represents the L. So think about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. No, 100. Yeah. Where's all the T's coming from? Clues for us, right? Clues for us. But yeah, Bobby Sands, 66 days he survived. What is sand? What is sand? Mm. This is we'll note as well. Right. So yeah, we'll note the container, the dome. Is it a glass dome? I like molten glass. What's glass made from, friends? Sand. Yeah, sand under certain conditions, right? Certain frequencies, certain vibrations, you generate heat, right? This is pretty much what's happening. So yeah, all of these simple questions have to be brought to bear. But that's my reasoning behind it, Irving, that there is a pushing force from above, and it is associated with the separating barrier, which, yeah, fundamentally, we are in a divided state as well. So nothing is natural, but it is this energized barrier, and it's this reflective energy that we consider as gravity, but also the ether as well. We can see the ether expressed in these clouds. We can see the same cloud patterns being expressed in circular fashions, ever decreasing circles, with you at the center, and well, also in the sands of the desert sands. I've showed images before, I can't show them now, but also the sand. If you're living near a beach, this is a challenge. I'm not living near a beach here. If you're living near a beach, you notice wrinkly patterns when the tide goes out. Everything should be flat. There's no reason why wet sand would be blown up into sand hills, mini sand hills. No, there's something else going on. So the sand is reacting. Sand is something else entirely, right? The sawdust of the giant crystalline trees, right? But yet that is reacting to this prevailing energy stew. That's what I call it. It's a moving stew that's invisible, and it's all prevalent, and yeah, but it's in the likes of sand that it does leave its imprint. So, but also in the clouds as well. So, yeah, well, a challenge to anybody living near a beach who obviously we all recognize these patterns we're talking about. We're small wondered what they were about, Now, if you live near a beach, the challenge for yourself, go back on regular basis and just take pictures and see if there's any repeating patterns. I guarantee you that you will find exactly repeating patterns. Slightly different form, maybe a bit contorted here, a bit twisted there, but you'll still see the same pattern being expressed. This is what I talk about in terms of the moon. Or the clouds for that matter. When you see a vague similarity between one, if you're going to pay attention, one cloud and another cloud, and you say, well, I could possibly see some sort of connection there. Now you have to get into your brain that, well, it could be the same thing, but maybe I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So, when you take these things into consideration, everything starts to click into place. So these are the patterns that are being constantly expressed and that we're under continuously. The sun being the great agitator then is a different kettle of fish. And what it actually does, Jesus and that equation with the sun, it's not a good thing. This is everything is reversed. It's not a good thing in the sense, because the only reason this division came into being was because of massive destruction, right? A destruction from a prior whole. And so it's not a good thing, but it's something that we are in the midst of. That's why don't separate yourself from Jesus. And Jesus, je suis, put the I back in Jesus. You go, je suis, or I am. I am, right? When I talked about the A and the M, if you divide the A in two, you get an M, right? If you look at the M and versus the A has one apex, right? Pointing upwards, one. The M has three apexi, api. No, that doesn't sound right. Three api. Three apexes. No, that doesn't sound right at all. Two are pointing upwards and one is pointing downwards. This is the 2/3 to 1/3, right? Our heart is 2/3 of the way up our body. 1/3 of the angels fell, right? You were that angel, remember that? The verse that probably the most, in one context, the most famous song ever. This is the hidden verse ever, like, because 9/11 was the most famous, it's the most significant thing in movie in history. I know it was a movie now, so most significant movie in history. So the imagine the soundtrack to the most significant movie in history. There's going to be some significance there. Well, this is the verse, the final verse that they left out, right? So this isn't on the album, but you can hear it in different versions. And this is my favorite song for years before I knew about any of this stuff. This is my favorite song. But just as I mentioned about Fallen Angels, so this is the verse that was left out of song number 10, I-O, right? 1, 0. There's the 1 and the 0 separated, right, from the theta component parts. X-Man, Christ Mass, Christmas, Christ Mass, X Mass, right? X-am-S. So there we have X-am-S. So that means I'm XS or SX. Well, my guitar is SX here, and it's not my guitar. Well, it is my guitar. I bought it off somebody, but it recently came my way. It came my way, SX. Get the heck out of here. But well, XS, it's telling us something, and we're looking at the letters, and well, we think about ourselves as well, and how we came to be here. So when the sperm met the egg, this is what the yin yang, amongst everything, represents everything else in one sense, but I think this is what the yin yang represents as well. It's actually the sperm and the egg. So the egg being the inversion of the sperm, and this reunification of the two, then we have the spark of life. Everything is an inversion of everything else, and a few interesting thoughts as well on the back of our brain and our gut, one being a sort of inversion of it. What would it, so as I go to chat, so I'm just going to have a cigarette here. So if you run with this, right, everything goes through the heart as well. So everything is mirrored through the heart. If you run with this, what would your answer be? So if our brain is equivalent to our gut or intestinal tract, right? But one is an inversion of the other. What would be the equivalent of the cranium in our bodies? So just as I asked that question, I assume this is coming through. I just have one page up, the live streaming page. So I assume this is coming through. I'm going to get a few more songs in as well before my mother comes back. Although my mother is going away shortly for a while, so I'll be mad. Sorry about that. Just before I go for my cigarette, I'll play you that. So from the most famous song in history, if you want to look at it in one sense, most famous song in history, song number 10, from Kid A. It's all pertinent as well. So here we have the A again. I mentioned before in the deck of cards, the A is the A, which is word 1 or 11. And I've talked about 9/11 representing the 2 becoming the 1, right? So Kid A, song number 10. by Thom Yorke, lead singer. Thom, Thon. Then we have the TH and OM. What I mentioned that earlier on, the Moon Mother, York, New York. But yeah, Dodo was the youngster, he was called. And Motion Picture Soundtrack is the name of the song. This is the hidden verse. So the song itself, that level of significance attached to it, but this is the verse omitted. So I can't do it justice, but I really think it's significant, and this is so. Pay attention to the words, and so this is the omitted verse, and torn apart. I hardly recognize you. I think you're crazy, Maggie. I think you're crazy, Maggie. I will see you in the night. Wow, well, look, beautiful angels. How's it called? Beautiful, beautiful angel. Oh yeah, beautiful angels, torn apart at birth, limbless and lifeless. I hardly recognize you. I think you're crazy, maybe. I think you're crazy, maybe. I will see you in the next life. Make of it what you will, right? All the little clues to be pieced together. And who wasn't paying attention to 9/11? I didn't come up with Radiohead's Kid A being the soundtrack to it. Definitely didn't do that. That's other links out there, other connections made in that front. I put my own connections together. Everything revolves around flat Earth. Once you get to flat Earth, lots of different things fall into place. And I certainly have put my own pieces and added my own things to things and expanded upon things. Something like that, yeah, it wasn't me who found that Kid A was the soundtrack to 9/11. So yeah, the omitted verse. Well, so much is said in what isn't said, isn't it? So that was the final verse that was omitted from the album itself. So 2/3, 66-33. That's the odds in our favor, right? Once again, that's a very significant 2/3 of the way up our body. We find our heart. So all playing into it. Any answers to? Well, I'm actually moving this in a second. But any answers to? You see, I don't now have to rush through chat, right? To the equivalent of Inside Out Skull, where that might rest within us. So work my way down. Midnight Gardener, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Level Scouser, I know this is going way back. How you doing? Oh, it's buffering, is it? I hope it's come. Maybe it's not coming through okay now. Let's. Okay, well, I don't want to get hung up too much on earlier chat. But yeah, how you doing? Hopefully everything's coming through okay. It sounds okay to me, I think. I want to check that actually. Okay, let me get rid of Should have checked that first of all on the main YouTube page because my computer is definitely not working as it should be. All right, it seems like I'm coming through okay. All right. Yeah, about 2 second delay. That's perfect. Okay, I'll stay in the main chat here. Okay, because I joined the main chat, it's only after cutting off loads of the earlier chats. So sorry about that. I'll just continue on. Baron Bronkovich, how you doing, Baron? Hakeem the best. Earth is flat, or is Earth flat? If it is, why and how does it work? Well, these are not questions you need to be asking. Well, you can ask them anywhere, I guess, but you ask yourself that, man. Go and figure it out yourself. So I'll say there. Because even if I told you the absolute truth, because you haven't considered or asked questions of yourself before that, you wouldn't believe it, right? So, yeah, the Earth is flat, as I've come to understand, anyway, in the same way as a tree stump is flat, right? Only in one particular sense. So, okay. I'm sort of buffering myself here now, and I think I'll cut out. I think I'll just because I don't need to be in the screen. It's just a sort of replication of the screen I'll have live streaming. So I just cut out the second part and just continue on as I am, less taxing on the computer's abilities. Yeah, any of these basic questions, sure. Look, you have to start yourself somewhere, and where the answers take you, well, they take. Who else is it? Anywhere? Anyone say that properly again? I mean, whatever you find out, whatever you come to realize yourself, who's that going to take? Who's that going to apply to except outside of yourself? Nobody, right? So whoever that was asked that question, yeah, this probably wouldn't be the right place to to jump in with such a basic, even though very pertinent and very reasonable questions under some context, but here isn't the right place anyway. I'm just going to confuse the fuck out of everybody anyway, because now I say the Earth is not flat, nor is it stationary, because the Earth is one thing, right? The Earth is the whole. So that means it's the sky, it's the Earth, it's the atmosphere, it's the skylights, and it's whatever the hell is underneath as well. We live in a bubble. The best way of seeing it, but the bubble is collapsed on top. So toroidal field, an apple, first of all, bite taken out of the apple, we have a decapitation on top, a collapse of the bubble. So we have a bubble in the center, and then an outer bubble. If you look down on it, sort of like a spider body, that sort of way I picture it. So yeah, Earth itself incorporates everything there, and it's the one thing that's generating the everything. And that one thing is, well, what other than the tree of life, right? We have been cut off from the tree of life. It's God's plan. From the link I read the last time, brilliant link. Don't even know who it was, you know, where he's coming from exactly, but just that he mentioned it in those terms. That let me just read it out. You have it here. Perfect. You know, a salvation plan was in the mind of God from the beginning, At the appropriate time, he would send his beloved Son, who would single-handedly turn things around and offer us access to the tree of life and spiritual immortality again. So we can sort of mix the symbolic and the literal, but ultimately it all comes back into what we view as real. Who are you having this experience? Where do you find yourself? So whatever answer you come up with, that's down to yourself. Don't be telling me anything about my answer. I'm not saying you're not free to do anything you like, but when you use adjectives like crazy or weird or ridiculous or something, well, this is the world we're in. If you want to define reality for me, go ahead, right? But I'd ask you, how well have you done in defining your own reality, first of all? When you ask that question, could Earth be flat? Ask yourself, right? Ask yourself. Help yourself out. Knock yourself out. We're all in the same boat here. No matter what you think about something, do we all share the same objective reality? I think we do to a big degree. It's the same puzzle that we're all in. So there's an answer to the puzzle that would apply to all of us. So the answer that I will find will satisfy you, and the answer that you will find as well. Otherwise, it would be a wrong answer. And then we can move on. So, okay, well, look, once again, when I get talking or when I get not distracted, this is the way it is, you just get talking about things, but I don't go to any questions. Any questions in the chat, I'll say hello again. I go from the bottom up. Turul, Baron Bronkovich, how you doing? Size, and if it's a shape floating in space, also unknown. Let's start from there. Well, I mean, yeah, what's going to be your starting point as the individual inquirer? Now, we have to remember how long we've been in this, right? So we haven't progressed beyond the basics in terms of copper fastening some sort of a fixing point within your own thinking. Well, that's down to you, isn't it? If all you can say at the end of 5 years is that the Earth is flat, water is not bending anywhere, and that's it. Well, that's down to you once again. I think it's an awful waste, myself, of your ability or all of our abilities to sort of piece these different things together. But yeah, fundamentally, we have to start off at a basic question. And when you, as the individual, have satisfied yourself to a general degree regarding that question, then you can move on to the next question. That's the way it works. And as I said earlier on, this is the individual's journey, and nobody is answering your questions for you. Oh yeah, sorry. Well, Midnight Gardener, I can't play it now, man. But during the week, what song do we used to play by the Stones? Shit. But I used to love her, but it's all over now. I have to refresh on that. But I used to love her, but it's all over now. That's one. Or maybe did we play Sympathy for the Devil? It's to meet you. I think we did. I have to go back fucking 20 years. No, more than that. What am I talking about? 20 years. When I was in college or university, it was university, right? 20 fucking hell, 29 years. 29 years ago, I was 18 when I started university. But we used to play all those songs, but I'd have to refresh on it for the next. Not now. So next hangout, I might even open up with that one for you, Midnight Gardener. Oh, the day is. All right, okay. Different story attached to that song. That's one of the songs we used to sing. Never big into the Stones though. They were the Stones as well. The Rolling Stones, the Rolling S Tones. Roll your S's. Yeah. I have to think about a Rolling Stones song now that. that was the one. They definitely sang it anyway, and we tried it out a few times. That was one of the. There was three of us used to play. Poddy, Mark, myself, and probably had a bucket full of 50 songs or something like that. But one of them was thrown into it. And we used to love it, but it's all over now. Is that a Chuck Berry song? Was that okay? Painted Black. Is it because I was flat? That's by um, Amy Winehouse, right? Is that the version you mean? Never big into her either. But when I came by Fakery and started looking into her supposed death, shit, man, that's another actor stage, exit stage left. So these characters live on, so don't be too depressed about that as well. They appear in another format. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Amy Winehouse, Lady Gaga conspiracy. Uh, Very possible, very possible. And if it is so, we were always meant to find out. We just have a cigarette here. Yeah, right. So I was just thinking, as I mentioned, the sword from the stone earlier on. But who took the sword from the stone? King Arthur, right? KNG. This is a K representative. K on my t-shirt. What happens if you put a K and a backwards K together? So if I mirrored this, so imagine the E transforming to a K. How would that come about? And if we put a K and a backwards K together, what would we get? Right? Um, this is all significant. And yeah, Arthur, King Arthur, K in G. Number G is the groin center, right? The lower material heart. And there's no separating any of this. There's no sort of hierarchy. Well, there is in a bigger sense. You got liver bodies, right? So everything separates upon exit. Exit. So remember I was saying what do you get if you get a K and you put a backwards K, you get an X, right? Put a line through the center. IX. IX. 9. IX. XI. And it is 911. So yeah, King Arthur, K in G, as opposed to K in T, right? K in A, the upwards, K-N-G, king, because a king, I describe myself as king of air, but I did always say, I use the term lightly. We are all kings and queens, are the highest authority that you can think of on the land. That's as simple as that. But our true worth, I guess, our true designation, how about that, is it's beyond any measure, beyond any material measure anyway. So on the point of exit, we leave the material behind, and our essence, whatever it is, that remains with us. I don't think you ever stop being you, right? It's a constant process of learning. If you think back in your own life, I wonder how far you can get back. I can get back to about a couple of months. So I think I should try to remember it. If I can remember those times, well, I must ask my mother, was it before or after I was baptized? So I was trying to think, can I remember my baptism? Because it would be a memorable moment. I have vague memories of being fucking my head thrown into water and looking upwards, like, but it could have been me at another baptism, putting myself in the baby's position or something. So I'd have to clarify that. But yeah, ultimately, the only one who's there from the beginning is me, and the same applies to you, right? So you're the only one in possession of your story. Your story is your story. My story is Miss Story, and our story is our story, right? O-R, our story. U-R-O, right? So King Arthur took the sword from the stone, the S word from the S tone, the is from the TH. Arthur itself, what's in a name? Everything. R-T-H-U-R. How do you feel? How do you feel about that? TH, theta, the 0, and the 1. The circle, the diameter. What do you get when you divide the circle by that? That was my puzzle, my riddle. If you haven't heard it, I'll throw it out again. I know I'm looking at myself. I have the screen up here, and I'm sort of looking at myself as if I'm talking to myself. I should be looking up here. I know that's where the camera is, but it seems sort of unnatural as well. I'm just looking at Hal. But yeah, so the riddle I threw out ages ago. What do you get if you I know, hang on, let me go ahead and put it. Yeah, how does 0 divided by 1 give you 42? That's my riddle. 0 divided by 1 equals 42. How so? Okay, I won't leave you hanging on that. Well, if you think of the theta, with the circle, the 0, and the 1, right, the diameter. So we have the relationship between the 0, the circumference of the circle, and the diameter, which is given as pi, right? Pi is t. So if you put a t and hang on, there's a t and a t next to one another, you get a pi, right? So 3.1421. I know there's 3.14159. When we reduce it down to 2 decimal places, we get 3.1421 in a ratio. And as a mathematical instruction, 3.14 signifies 3 multiplied by 14, which gives you 42, which Douglas Adams tells us is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. We note that 42 is 24 backwards. 24 is 8, 8, 8. So remember, I was talking about our story, my story, mystery, our story. Well, we are all confined or defined by time. And time is a measure, well, the hourglass, right? The hourglass measure the passage of time, the transference of sand particles, the sands of time. Very pertinent as well. But yeah, the hourglass, H-O-U-R, is hourglass, O-U-R, and an hourglass is in the form of an 8, right? Does the 8 represent? How does the 8 apply to me? Well, we are the 0, so we are not the materials, we are the 0, but we're in a divided state. So the 0 is divided, twisted state. So we become divided from the head to the heart, and the heart to the groin center. I've talked about, sorry, that's the answer to that riddle. Theta error, right? So what would be the answer actually? 0 divided by 1 equals 42. The answer is theta. Yeah. So when you see the symbol for theta, you'll understand that then the circumference and diameter ratio or pi. Okay. Okay. What do you reckon? I was going to say something else there, but not to do that because that's so easy. I think it's so distracted as well. But yeah, getting back to the th as well. Math. God is number. Math. Th. So what does it represent? Another interesting one about the pi, the symbol for pi being TT, right? TT. Yeah, T is the top. So think about the cross, Jesus crucified on the cross, raised from the dead. The T, go AT. This is why the goat is the Masonic mascot. Go AT. Seek out those higher callings, if you want, or component parts. And the way I look at it, we can look upon all of this as trickery and treachery on monstrous scales. And fair enough, like all things being equal, it certainly is. But nothing is equal. Nothing. Life is not at all what we ever thought it was. Life. If L, right? I fell. Material. Water and matter, right? So we have the W and the M. That relationship is made, is that connection is stamped. And yeah, it's all about the words, isn't it? We understand what we understand via the word. So if the word has some sort of encoding within it, we do well to pay attention. We've talked about it many times. The English language came to us pretty much whole cloth. It was it was given us. It didn't develop over bleeds from all manner of various influences. No, everything is ultimately connected, and all languages are ultimately encoded around the same core truth, right? The core idea, and this is what we're sort of making our way towards now. It was always scripted this way, so yeah, pick up the baton. Like the guy we spoke to today, who's just satisfied with his lot, and he hasn't. He accepts there's only so many things that he can sort of ponder about, so much information that he can have regarding a topic, and so much he can know, I guess, and he preferred to not try to figure it out, which doesn't cost you anything really. As I said to him as well, but you still go back to Twitter tomorrow and look into all of these comments regarding whatever thing you mentioned, whatever they use now, all this instant sort of information exchange. I said you still go back tomorrow and hear the ideas being expressed, and by doing so, 1 minute, man, 1 minute.
Down a minute, up to 5 minutes. I talk to you. I won't be long. No, it's when smoke, not be long. Let it put my bed out there. And then you both need to be
Yeah, okay. So where did I leave things off? I gotta go down a few minutes. My mother's going up to Belfast, and she's going to pop into the Titanic Museum. I said, Jesus, the Titanic never, not that it never existed, but it was a hoax. It was a symbolic hoax. Like, but what are you going to do there? That's shocking. No one would hear you out in that, would they? But absolutely, I mean, ask yourself or find out where James Cameron was in 9/11. Actually, very interesting. So brilliant. So just as an area of interest, because it's also significant, I mentioned three characters who've been associated with the dodo, who are pretty much top of the rain down inside, pretty much top of their game, all put into place, but all associated with the dodo. Tom York, Paul McCartney, and Michael Jackson. If you remember Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney fighting over the Beatles catalogue, sort of baton was being passed, right? So one dodo passed the baton to another dodo. I didn't actually look into a connection between Michael Jackson and Radiohead yet, and Tom York, but I probably should do that. One thing you should do, I don't have the ability to share my screen here, but I have the links up and I haven't actually looked into them myself, but they are significant, is look up where the dodos were on 9/11. So look up where Paul McCartney was on 9/11, look up where Michael Jackson was on 9/11, and look up where Tom York from Radiohead was on 9/11. I just have to, can I play music here? I don't even know if I can play music. I can't, I don't think. For a few minutes. I'll try it anyway. I'm going to just play for a few minutes. In the background. Yeah, and how's I think it's significant moment. That's just kind of out of the blue. I was just going to wait for a while to Belfast and the Titanic, because I've equated Titanic with both hoaxes. 9/11. Titanic was a representative of one becoming two, like Titan IC, right? So there was this breakup of the Empire State, and we had 100 years of turmoil, and then we had 2012, 100 years after 1912. And well, all the expectation around 2012. Um, 11 years prior to that, we had 2001, and that was 9/11, and 9/11 represented two becoming one. So I'm going to put on this. No, I don't think I'm okay now. Yeah, here we go. I'm just going to put on the music, and hopefully hear it. It's go just type in YouTube flat accord music soulmate. So pay attention to the lyrics. This is brilliant, and lots of insight here. Hope the music comes through, and I should be back in a few minutes. If it doesn't, I guess it might be too bad. Hang on. Soulmate, use soulmate. It's about that reconnection. So we're going to talk about the earth as a whole, earth, the heart as a whole. We have been divided. The brain is divided in two. The heart is divided in four. The groin is divided in two. For all of us, you know, and it's all about this reunification idea. Why isn't that coming up? Right, here we go. So, soulmate. This is the idea. I think it's the greater story, and yeah, it is making that connection between us, the sun, which, well, the way I look at it now, we have this contoured, watery, energized barrier, like molten glass is a perfect way to describe it, an invisible energy barrier, right? That's a permeable thing. So all coming from a breathing, a living source, right? Aristarchus at the center. But we have this mirror-like condition set up, and yeah, so I shouldn't say we, when I came to an understanding that the sun, the moon is a reflection of the sun, and I found the Milky Way on the moon, then it hit me that the sun is the thing that's doing reflecting the whole of the sky. we see daylight half of the time, but if there's a sort of pretty much horizontal plane again over which the sun is moving, then it projecting the rest of the sky makes sense. And that's what I think this soulmate and this reunification idea is about. It's about reconnecting ourselves to Earth, right? To all that Earth is and all that Earth encompasses. Um, yeah, further to my thinking, everything goes back to Polaris. So for the sun is the primary reflection of Polaris, and then it's the sun that does the reflecting of the sky. But Polaris itself then is a primary reflection of the Polaris Starkus as it emanates from the North Center and everything revolves around it. So when I talk about the Earth being not flat and not stationary, the Earth is not flat as a whole, the way I picture it. The tree is intact beneath, the tree of life is severed. It is not destroyed, right? It's cut in half, but two become one again. Um, and we live under we live in the tougher, we live in a fractal reality, we live in a reality that's, what do you say, magical. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's far beyond our reckoning or ability to understand it against the contrast of traditional education anyway, and how everything works. So, yeah, let me just play the music, and I shouldn't be feeling it anyway. And my mother's going to wait tomorrow, as I said, so she just wants me to instructions. Let me see if the sound comes through okay. I think it should come through okay. Let me just turn it up a small bit. Brilliant sound. Okay, I'm back. Circle of fifths passed over. Interesting. Interesting. I'll leave that. I'll leave that video up actually, because everything for a reason. But I studied this. I studied it myself. Just bought some books and learned music theory and went through all the exercises and stuff. But maybe it's time to get back to it as well. Of course, we have the musical scale from do to do, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. All of those individual letters associated with the sounds are all aptly chosen. They're chosen for very, very specific reasons. So why do the scales begin and end on do, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do to do. We have a division now. I'm thinking about everything's about mirroring. Remember what I was saying about the code dodo? So when we have this numerical association with the letter, when we worked it from front to back, which is front and which is back when you're looking in a mirror, right? Well, we got A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, G is 7, H is 8, I is 9, J and 9. This is the important equivalency, J and 9. So a J and I. So I and J are equivalent. Remember I mentioned earlier on putting the I back into the Jesus, into Jesus gives us the I am. Well, then we have I is I is 9, J is 9. Then back down. K is 8. Divided state. Remember, 2 K's we get the X. The 8 is the twisted 0. K is 8. L is 7. M is 6, N is 5, so circle of fifths, two n's give you 5 and 5, 10. When we combine an n and a backwards n, we get ixi, or ixxi, which is 9, 11. I'm talking about capital letters here. So anyway, yeah, n is 5, O is 4, P is 3, Q is 2, R is 1, S is back up again, S is 2, T is 3, U is 4, V is 5, W is 6, X is 7, Y is 8, and Z is 9. Now, so that was half of it. That was the cododo, which I thought was the whole thing, but the half of it, now we have to reverse it, right? Go from the back to the front. Z is 1, Y is 2, X is 3, W is 4, V is 5, U is 6, T is 7, S is 8, R is 9. I have to go all the way back now, so we're not good at doing things backwards, are we? Q is 8, P is 7, O is 6, N is 5, M is 4, L is 3, hang on, how can L be 3? M is 4, so that's J, K, L, M. M is 4, L is 3, K is 2. So K is 2. Remember saying K and K gives you the X? K is 2. J is 1. So that's where we have the equivalency when say I is 1 as well as J is 1. So that's brilliant, right? On the backwards turn. And H is 2. Because H is the 8, you see the 8 is the 8, H is the 8th letter, which is the twisted 0. So H is 2, G is 3, F is 4, E is 5, so E is 5 on both turns, as is N is 5, and B is also 5. So sorry, getting to the end of it. D is 4, D is 6, and C is 7, B is 8, and A is 9 as well. That was difficult to try to do it yourself. We should know these things back to front, but we don't know them back to front, do we? So I think that's the other half. And what it basically amounts to is A is 1 and 9, B is 2 and 8, C is 3 and 7, D is 4 and 6, E is 5 and 5, F is 6 and 4, G is 7 and 3, H is 8 and 2, I is 9 and 1, J is 9 and 1, K is 8 and 2, L is 7 and 3, M is 6 and 4, N is 5 and 5. Let me go through it now. O is 4 and 6, P is 3 and 7, Q is 2 and 8, R is 1 and 9, S is 2 and 8, T is 3 and 7, U is 4 and 6, V is 5 and 5, W is 6 and 4, X is 7 and 3, Y is 8 and 2, and Z is 9 and 1. So I think that's the full code. Now, yeah, I definitely have to get out a pen and paper to sort of formulate it into some ideas on that as well, just how to visually represent it and show the interconnections between it. But there's a certain symmetry to all of it, which is yeah, well, it's something certainly feels right anyway. I'm talking about the cold odor for ages again. There's I and the J being that pivotal point. And yeah, so that's just talking about the circle of fifths. So I'm going to leave the video up and have a look at it later, see if there's any clues in it. I'm not really want to get back into music theory too much, but who knows where anything will go. I got to find something anyway for the rest of it. Oh, Midnight Gardener. So I just came back in the chat. So drug bust in Japan proves he's not Paul with different fingerprints. Yeah, I think this is more storytelling, and we were always meant to go down that pathway as well. It's not a little clue given for us, you know, and I was aware of the controversy, and it most certainly is not. They published one or other back in 1969, so all of these little clues given to us, and well, what you as the individual Midnight make of it? Well, that is the question, isn't it? Earther is, how you doing, Earther? Blank, are you taking the, oh, hang on, you say Paul being replaced by Double is disinfo. I'm not a fan, never have been, looked into it many years ago extensively. Mike is a disinfo dude. Absolutely, Mike is a disinfo dude, and he appeared on Patricia Steer's show. No, man, Earther, there was definitely a switch, and that's only the beginning of the story, though. I mean, we're always meant to see this switch. You know, oh shit! Where do I start with that? Where do I start with that? With there's no point in starting with that. There, shit. Well, all I say to you is not just Paul was switched; all the Beatles were switched. Barack Obama is fucking Will Smith, for God's sake. All the Beatles were switched. There's a greater story being told through these crafted characters. So everything that's presented to us as news, right, is a clue. We're meant to put these pieces together. There was definitely a switch, but I believe that the guy, one of the conspiracies given to us was that he was decapitated. He decapitated again, right? He was in some sort of car crash. Very interesting. Austin Martin. I think the number was 42. Austin Martin DB42 or something. I think it was something like that. Loaded with clues. Again, I haven't thought about this in ages, but just to, if you're a genuine earther, and you gave me your word as well, you're genuine, man, these are all different layers to the story. So if you've never looked into it too seriously, and you're not inclined to, maybe you shouldn't then, but if you do look into it seriously, go to some of the pro boards, for instance, the people who have been looking at this consistently for years on end, you know, the people who contribute on a daily basis to different threads being formatted. There's some fantastic information there. If I have a link here for you, actually, let me see if I can post that link in chat. Yeah, here we go. Have a look at this, bud. Not that you're going, well, not that you're not going to, but you should look. It's so in Vandis pro boards, right? These, let me copy link address. This is fantastic, absolutely fantastic link. And I looked through this about 6 or 7 years ago. Now, the people who are involved in this board, in Vandis board, I don't know anything about them, never any personal contact with any of them, like, you know, but understood that you're in a sort of a closed community and people are cooperating around the same theme. So with that link I just posted there, it's well understood that not just Paul from the Beatles was replaced, all of the Beatles were replaced, or at least they had lookalikes stand in on certain occasions. And the controversy was regarding when was the initial replacement. We're fed the story that it was 1966, and the number, the date 9/11, 1966 turns out, or is presented to us as well. So that significance is brought to the fore, and it does play a much greater role in things. No, it's all a fucking setup. Like the whole thing is a setup. The Beatles are all about Alice in Wonderland and references to Alice. Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. Right, this is what their album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was all about. when you think about the main man, Mr. Flat Earth himself, Mark Sargent. Mark Sargent volunteered information that he was a prepper, right? That he put out a prepper's guide 8 years prior to putting out the clues, which he was inspired by overnight. Now, think about it as well. Mark Sargent he's pretty famous, right? He's been on more TV stations doing interviews and radio stations, etc., and newspaper interviews than anyone else in relation to flat Earth. He's pretty famous in that sense. So the whole character was contrived, and everything associated with the character then. From his name itself, Mark Sargent to Sergeant Pepper, to all of his work history, all of the different clues associated with him are all contrived. This is doing, you got to read it. But yeah, if that's where you are with the Beatles controversy, yeah, lots of the stuff I say then won't make sense. Paul is a dodo. Paul Fall is the dodo. A greater story is being told through these crafted efforts, I guess. It's, that's all. If you look at that link I posted, well, if you think it's disinfo, okay. Now, Arthur, I don't like that shit, man. Don't give that strong force here, because I've looked at the Paul is Fall. I know that Paul and Fall were replaced, and I'll tell you how I know categorically what clinched it for me, in spite of all of the different clues. What just made it a clincher was, I remember looking into it back in 2013, and there was one particular image or one particular video of all of the Beatles walking. Just you had a view of them walking in a straight line, and Paul himself had a specific gait to him. He walked, the best way I can explain it is like he's after getting off a horse. He just had the bow legs, right? The other guy didn't walk like that at all. And that was the big clincher way back then. But beyond that, there were so many other points that pretty much proved the case. But now I see that the greater story attached to all of this. So I don't like any of that strong sort of claims there. There's plenty of information out there to go look and seek into for yourself. So it is disinfo, but there is info behind the disinfo. This is the whole point. And you obviously haven't been here listening to what I've been saying about the Beatles for the longest of times now. So Paul was certainly replaced. And the real Paul, actually, go type into your YouTube, Earther, caretaker at Paul McCartney's family home. I can't present it here, and I want to go looking for it. Type in caretaker of Paul McCartney's family home in Liverpool, and tell me that doesn't look like Paul himself. Well, that's the real Paul, God. That's the real Paul. As I said, there's a different game going on here, and if you're going to be stuck at the literal, well, you're going to be caught in the same trap as always. But we're entitled to your point of view and opinion. Sure, there's lots of disinfo attached to the Paul is Dead story, and that guy Mike, he's just going on the coattails of other people. Everything that's been around now, all this stuff was discussed in September Clues, Clues Forum, Let's Roll Forum, fakeologist.com years ago. So go to any of those sites, Earther, and see what sort of information you come by. But before I'd send you to any of those sites, I'd send you to the same site there that I posted a link from, which is the Pro Boards. So they're people who have put in the time, and they've moved well beyond the basic conspiracy, because it's just a layer. You peel off the first layer, then you're invited into a deeper layer. So yeah, absolutely, Paul was replaced, but there's more to it. That's my what do you call it? Excuse me a second. But calm your language. That's what I'm saying. Just calm your language around here. Lots of people have different points of view, and we know there's plenty of disinformation around. But many different points of view on many different things, and you know, I've been called enough of things for talking about 9/11 being a media and a victim hoax. What do you think about that, Arthur? 9/11 being a media and a victim hoax. Have you made any connections between Paul McCartney, for instance, and 9/11? I said earlier on, the three characters identified having associations with the dodo. Paul McCartney, or Paul and Paul, the switcheroo. It had to be doubled by two becoming one, or one becoming two. Um, Look into where Paul McCartney, or what Paul McCartney's story was regarding 9/11. Also, Michael Jackson. Look where Michael Jackson was at 9/11. He's another character associated with the dodo, as is Tom York. Look where Tom York was in 9/11. So if you haven't considered these connections, well, you're behind the curve then, I think, because there's a greater story being told through these greater machinations, these greater crafting. It's all storytelling. The story is written, right? These are just characters on the stage acting it out. I've already identified Paul and Paul as the dodo. Now, if that's meaningless to you, Arthur, I don't want to dwell on this, but that's fair enough. I can't do anything about that. I might go back 3 years in time and start everything from scratch again. And it feels like that is going on a daily basis elsewhere, but not here, bud. It's pissing rain outside in Iran, right? RNA. Yeah, these are deep stories. I mean, I've connected Paul McCartney to Lewis Carroll, right? Underneath the picture of the dodo, painted 60 years ago? No, it's 100, maybe 160 years ago now, as the story goes. There we find the face of Paul / Paul McCartney. The greater story unfolded. The dodo came into being. If you remember the Gleason's map, when you turn the Gleason's map upside down, we have the dodo present itself. You all remember the story of the dodo. I just talked about music scales, do to do. We think about a dodo as soother. I talked about it. The first word millions of children are taught to associate with soothing feeling, which is dodo. So it's ingrained and planted within our consciousness. So dodo being do. What does all this mean? I talked about the theta earlier on. Birth, 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 right? This is what it all comes back to. So the dodo connecting our divided state, which is the Paul switcheroo, right? What it reflects. Think about the lyrics of yesterday. With the external world, the division external, which is the changing face of the land post-destruction, decapitation. The old Paul was said to be decapitated, right? And that's why they had the need to replace him with the new Paul. But if you don't buy any of that, Arthur, it's probably better we have a discussion. I'm not telling you to not express yourself. Just don't be so forthright about it, because I'm certainly coming from a different position, as I'm sure others are as well. And there's many sides to every story. Well, when we think about Paul, it was transgender. Paul is another transgender. Linda, now if you can't tell, Linda McCartney his wife, definitely transgender male. Like, so everything is switcheroo, everything is sort of twisted. This is what it all represents. It all is metaphor. It's all sort of allegorical tales back to our true story here. When we find out that Paul's daughter's first daughter he named, well, you never guess. I'll leave you type it. I'll leave you look in Google actually. The reason that the dodo came about, the reason that the divided state externally and internally came about was because of the decapitation of the tree of life, which is R.I. Starkis, the only tree there is. All other trees are tributaries or tributaries of the one tree. R.I. Starkis, while Paul the Dodo, the changing face of the land of Gleason's map, the face of the flat earth as it juts out above water. This came about because of the decapitation of Aristarchus. So the Dodo was birthed via the decapitation of Aristarchus. And what did Paul the Dodo call his first daughter? Estelle. Estelle is star. Star, deeper breakdown of the word star itself, Estar. Tar is in the very heart of Aristarchus, and it's the heart of all of us. Amen, B-man, seaman. Tar is an archaic term for an able-bodied seaman. So it's when the seaman connects with the egg that our material universe begins. All of this story is interwoven within the Beatles being the most prominent facade, right? World's most famous musical band. And what is their most famous album? Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Mark Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Mark Sargent was a prepper. Yes, he was. So do you see any pieces together? Patricia, Magical Mystery Tour. David Weiss, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, is a reference to Alice in Wonderland. When you look into Sgt. Pepper's, that link will help you there. You find out you don't even need that link, but you'll find out it's a walkthrough Alice in Wonderland. There's that association made between Aleister Crowley and the Beatles, Paul McCartney especially. Aleister Crowley, another fabricated character with a big horror mask placed over him. He died. He's still alive, Arthur. Okay. But look, there's different points of view here, and I agree with you. The Beatles have been reality TV from day one. Absolutely. They're true givers in all of this. It's only with the proper context. I mean, what do you think what has flat Earth changed for you in terms of your perception of sort of a greater picture here? Surely it's changed everything. Now everything becomes sort of possible in one sense. We look to all the different influences presented to us throughout history, if you want to put it like that, and we see them as part of this reality TV. But what's the purpose of it? This is the point, as I mentioned earlier on, Arthur. There's two things that occur to me when I reduce it down to everything. Either I'm forced into the situation, which I'm miserable in. I'm miserable in life, right? I'm either forced into it or I consented to being in it for whatever reasons that I've forgotten or have had wiped. When I look at all the different clues being presented then, especially after coming to Flat Earth, but I was looking into some of this stuff, most of the stuff before Flat Earth, I was looking into Paul McCartney being replaced. I have threads over above Top Secret, David Icke, Godlike Productions, all talking about this stuff and beyond. That was just the beginning of it. So yeah, they're all part of the greater scheme here. So Paul wasn't killed. It's all a story. He was switched around though, as most of them switched around. All the Beatles were switched around at some stage. The fake John Lennon was fake killed in New York, right, by Mark Chapman. C-H-A-P man, right? C-H-U-R-C-H. Yeah, the fake John Lennon was killed. So, if you think this level of disguise making, for one, imitation, crafting, is not possible. Where have you been? And, well, as I said at the start as well, each man has his story and connects his own dots. Ultimately, we all share the same story. We're all privy to the same movie. We're all looking at the Matrix, right? movie itself, and we're coming out with our own impressions of it. Ultimately, there's a core truth being presented that applies to us all, but each man will have his different interpretations. And this is what this is about here. Me sitting up front of a computer just talking about my interpretation of things. But I'm certainly open-minded to everyone's interpretation of anything, as long as there's a sort of an honest heart behind the inquiry. That's the way it goes. Like, you never know where you're going to learn your next clue, or where the next piece of the puzzle is going to slide into place. But oh, is it okay? Shit, just buffering. Is that? Okay, I don't know what I can do about that. Listen, I must have about fucking 50 links open as well, so that's not good. I don't think I can change the resolution here. Let me get rid of this, actually. I'll get rid of that, and I will try and just delete. Okay. I kind of didn't want to do this anyway as well. You can sort of get lost in an area, and that's certainly an area that you can get so lost in. But me myself, I did get lost in that years ago, say 6 or 7 years ago. But also reconnected then with Paul, the whole Paul is dead thing. I'm coming to flat Earth, and waking up to the true symbolic significance of the dodo, as opposed to the literary. Interpretation of things, which is nonsense, stupid story anyway. So yeah, but all connects, and well, where did the dodo take us? Well, to Estelle, his daughter. Estelle Star, R.I. Star, because the dodo came into being because of the decapitation of the tree of life. The tree of life is all encompassing, and this is why there's no separating the sky from the earth, or the skylights from the earth. Whatever is causing it is earthbound. That thing is, well, you know what I'm going to say. It's the way it's written. It's the way the story is written. So anyway, yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. I think what happened. I think what happened is that the old Paul, and who's there now is not the real Paul. He's the imitator. And I sort of prove this in enough to my own satisfaction. Anyway, one of these baller antagonists, MMA was his name, from Australia, and he's one of these naysayers, like just a constant antagonist returning. But he had no idea about what I was talking about when I put up this comparison. So in the center, I had the young Paul, right, that we all recognize as Paul McCartney, one of the very earliest images there was of him. Then on the right, I have it here, and I'd bring it up just to show you in case you hadn't seen it. It's an excellent comparison. On the right, I had the Paul McCartney as the world accepts is Paul McCartney at the stage. But on the left, then, I had the caretaker of Paul McCartney's family home, who was a spitting image of the guy in the middle, the younger fella, and happened to just turn out to be a random chance occurrence. He ended up getting the job as caretaker of Paul McCartney's family home, right, a humble home in Liverpool. So anyway, when the comparison went up, I asked him. All the rest of them all knew the story, so they all said, no, this isn't it. But I asked him, he said, yeah, the guy on the left definitely looks a lot more like the guy in the middle and the guy on the right. He didn't know anything about it. And all of his baller mates were going, no, you got that wrong, man. He's gone, what? I don't know what you're talking about here. So he sort of gave something away via his unbiased nature in regards to that matter, whereas he was biased, and you ask him about 9/11, you ask him about flat Earth, or he has a script to adhere to. So yeah, he picked out something that I already knew was the case. And when I asked myself, why would they do that? Why would they bring the real Paul back and have him home? Well, we find out that the nearest relative, according to the script, of the dodo, the nearest living relative of the dodo bird is the Liverpool homing pigeon. Come on. Liverpool homing pigeon. So if the dodo bird never existed, why would you write these things into the script? Why are all these connections made over time as well? It's not just something that's what do you call it in play now. As I say, when I found, I can't show you an image here, but when fuck it, I don't want to get into that, man. That's probably one of the greatest treasures, and I know it is, Mike. I know it is ever refound, which is the face of Paul slash Fall underneath the dodo's wing of the Sabian.org version of Alice in Wonderland, the only version at the time where you had this image of the face underneath the dodo's wing. Every other version featured the beginnings of it, but it wasn't quite there. And there's a whole other story attached to that, how the original plates were lost, etc., and how copies were made from them, and only one plate failed to be relocated of the original plates. So the copy had to be used, and by using the copy, some of the detail of the original artistry was lost. That play turned out to be chapter 3 of Alice in Wonderland, where the dodo meets Alice in that particular caption, where Dodo and Alice meet. Come on, so I'm not going to go into all of that again, but that's a fantastic treasure to find. Of course, we went on to great places after that, realizing the significance of the discarded chapter, this discarded stone, which will form the cornerstone, the discarded chapter of Alice in Wonderland called The Wasp in the Wig. But yeah, casting my mind back a couple of years now at this stage. Okay, sorry. I've been chatting away. Did George Harrison get so badly stabbed up at such? No, that's bullshit, Midnight Gardener. And we think about the George Harrison, human, H human, sun. Now, Starkus. A star is the sun is a star, right? So there's that sort of connection made. George Harrison, but who's the other member of the Beatles? Well, Ringo Starr or R. Starkey, Richard Starkey. R.I. Starkus, R.I. Starkey. Okay. So you can, okay, well, hang on for a third. I mean, lots of people here I know already, right? And you might think that they don't see the bigger picture, and you might be coming in here, maybe lecturing in some sense. If you think you know something, lay it out in a reasonable sense if you want, but don't be assuming so quickly anyway what bigger picture people can see or not really. If I was to ask you a few questions, I mean, what bigger picture is going on then? Right, Paul was in it. They were, yeah. I mean, what are you saying is in contention here? Yeah, right, right. Harrison was mostly used to push the New Age agenda. Remember they made the association with India and transcendental and meditation? Yeah, I've been through all of this, man. It's all clues for you. It's all clues for you. The star and key of the Indian Ocean is Mauritius. The motto on the flag of Mauritius, the standard of Mauritius, star and key of the Indian Ocean, transcendental meditate. Think about the word. What does that mean? Transcend, from end to end. Remember, your heart is essential from end to end. Transcend, dental, via the teeth, is all about frequency, vibration. Transcendental, meditate, from head to head. We have a head above, we have a head below, right? You have a head on your penis head, your helmet. You wear a helmet above. Transcendental, meditate. So a bridge from head to head, from the center of the head to the center of the head. A bridge has to be made from above to below. What bridge might that be? What bridge might that be? Yeah, a bridge too far for many. A bridge too far for people who don't want to deal with reality. But I mean, well, all right. who are you talking to specifically here, Earther? I asked you to sort of control your language because there's people in here who I have had good associations with over much time. So I hope you're talking to someone like P Mars there. If not, I just ask you to control your language. Tell us what your bottom line is on the whole Beatles thing. Then, what's it all about? Are you stuck in this sort of satanic new world order um, package that's being presented to us on all fronts and all sides? Is this how you see what's going on? What was the ultimate purpose of the switch then? Paul was a cooperative in it. I absolutely agree with that. Paul didn't die, but there wasn't just one Paul. There was a few Pauls, like there was a few Bob Dylans, a few John Lennons. It's the same thing. It's all theater. But the question we all have to get to is what is the ultimate purpose of all of this deception? So, I mean, I've spoken about this many, many times. So the stuff that you're probably bringing up now, I dealt with, ages and ages ago. But I mean, what do you think is the ultimate purpose of all of this? Then, have you seen how 9/11 connects to the Beatles, for instance? I mean, I'm not questioning you on what you know. I don't even know what you know, but I'd like to find out because all of these things connect. All of these things connect, and transcendental meditation. Let me just talk briefly about the moon landings, what that was all about. So we have this division, right? So the Earth was parted from a prior state with the decapitation of the tree of life. So we have this division of all of these component parts, the sky from the Earth, the self from the self. So the moon landing represented this reunification of a thing once divided, the father reconnecting with the mother, the moon, the mother, right? Selene. Selene, I was thinking of Selene, the word, that's the name for the moon, Selene or Saline or little sun. The moon is a reflection of the sun. The sun is masculine. And yeah, when they set off on their penis rocket, the three little astronauts, right, astronauticals, nautical is going to do with waters, right? So these are the three sperms. They're the three little loaded sperms, being contained within the rocket and then being ejaculated on the moon's surface, hoping for some sort of impregnation. So it's all symbolic, where we have this reunification of Mother Earth and Father Sky, or Father Earth, the rocket coming from the Earth, and the Mother in the sky. But once again, it's telling us that everything was once connected and is now sundered and all set for repair. Heart of everything, back to Earth. Aristarchus. Aristarchus is moving. That's why the skylights move. Yeah, the Earth itself isn't moving. Aristarchus at the center, the heart, the core, the Coriolis. Olus is knowledge in Irish, so Coriolis is knowledge of the core. Something is moving once per day. This movement defines the day, right? It defines time. Jesus came into being. Jesus was birthed with the decapitation of Aristarchus. This is why we remember at Christmas time with the decapitated tree, planting it on the X and artificially lighting it up and having the big star at the top, Polaris. This is what we're remembering. So Jesus signifies the birth into this divided state. And our quest is, to rebridge, right? To reconnect what is divided. If we think about it in terms of ourselves outside the external symbology, what's going on internally, when a man comes together with a woman, then we have the sperm meeting the egg, the union of things the reunion of things once united but then divided. When we have that, then we have the greatest miracle known to us, which is, us, right? The human child. So it is that divided state that's bridged now. I'm only here by myself. Can I bridge that gap? Can I reunify myself? Yes, I can. This is what's being told to us. Kingdom come. You remember the Beatles saying, "Come together right now over me." This is all about the semen, right? What we do with it. If we succumb to lust, we spill our seed, we waste the most precious fluid in existence. So, what can we do? How can the gap be bridged within us? We are divided down the center, our left brain from our right brain. Even if we connect our left brain and our right brain, we still have a hemisphere, right? So is there equivalent? Is there an equivalent below on the transcend dental meditation? So we go from end to end via the heart center. Yes, the testicles or the two testicles, they're the ovaries. So for a woman, the man is pulled out of the woman. So we're told that the woman is pulled out of the man. I think the man is pulled out of the woman. And it's about this reunification now, which reconnects the circuit. Yeah, which, as I say, when we have this union of male and female, this reconnects the circuit and gives us the greatest miracle. But can we bridge the gap ourselves? Yes, we can. What we have to do is, well, the Catholic faith is all about fasting, isn't it? If we think about the Easter ritual or the Ishtar or Istar or Ri Starkus, right? Rise erection. So what we have to do, so we have to fast. We have to fast first, right? When you fast, let me tell you what happens when you fast. Your stomach acid dries up. I'd fast for 18 days. I mean, yeah, just it had to be 18, right? Depending, just going back last year, but based on what I was talking about beforehand, it just had to be 18 days, and it turned out absolutely a random chance that it was 18 days. But yeah, when you fast, all of your stomach acid dries up, right? Your you don't defecate after 3 days, something like that. So that passageway is blocked up. So anything you put into your stomach after that, right, will be immediately absorbed into your bloodstream and into your heart and then pumped to your blood. So what I think is the idea is how to reconnect the two hemispheres of your brain in the center via the spine. The spine connects everything, right? But yeah, if you think about just a line from the center of your brain down your spine up to your erect, I was going to say to your erect penis, right? But up to your erect penis from where the sperm ejects from. There's a short circuit there. So the woman placed on top, all due respect, of course, and love to women. They're us. We are male and female. We're just in a divided state, right? So the woman then planked on top will bridge that seventh circuit, and well, you will have that spark, right? That spark of reconnection is made. So how can we do that within ourselves, right? Well, again, you can react whatever way you like to it, and you can call me what you like. What I say applies to all of us, right? It just doesn't apply to me as a man. It applies to all men. What applies to one woman applies to all women. So yeah, when you go through that fasting process with due practices, I guess. Sun gazing is one of them. Well, not eating at all in this case, but getting your mind wrapped around it is the most important thing as well. Have a sort of a contextual base for what you're doing. Yeah, this is the idea. And yeah, so so with the brain, so we have this connection in the center, and we're told that the right brain controls the left side, and the left brain controls the right side. This is where we have the connection to the heart, and we have the eight, right? So we have the left to the heart, down to the right side, testicle-wise, right? So the groin, right center, back over to the left, up to the heart, and over to the right brain. So we have to make that connection right in the center of the brain, and well, it is a consummation devoutly to be wished for. Our Father who art in heaven. Remember heaven? In the name of the Father. This is heaven and here, the immaterial center. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. So, yeah. well, I could go into so many more details. I'm just spitting it out here, but so many different clues connected as well. And how many times is the word "come" used in the Bible? Especially, let me just read that. Let me read this. So, in light of what I've been saying, Revelations 22. So, just in light of what I've been saying, that those with ears hear. King James Version, Revelations 22. So consummation. As males, what? It's a drive within us, right? We have this drive all our lives to give away our semen to women, and we all fantasize, of course. And when we face these things head on, well, we can see that we're succumbing to lust. But if I have no problem because of putting my bodily fluids into some other person, a woman, obviously, I mean, but it might be a woman for everybody. Well, I shouldn't be disgusted about any thoughts of me consuming my own bodily fluids. Definitely not, right? So it's about growing up as well. And as I said, this applies to all men. It applies to one and all. Let me read this actually. I'm going to read it in full, but I want you to pay attention to what I've been saying, um, and see if the words used then might reflect some arrow pointing in that sense. I've talked about before as well. We never get to hear about Jesus's sexual frustrations, which are the great bane on all of our lives as men, right? It's just this constant drive or desire that's overbearing almost at all times. So why don't we get Jesus's take on all of this? We never get to hear it, or do we? Or do we? If we read between the lines, or if we pay attention, right? So anyway, let me just read Revelations 22, and because I didn't intend to do this now, but because I also read a little piece talking about the reconnection with the tree of life and how it was in God's plans all along. That it's by creating His Son, or by bringing His Son into being, that this reconnection was made possible. So it's only through division can reunification be achieved. Just again, when I mentioned this, the fucking Titanic. So the Titanic represented one becoming two, and then 9/11, two becoming one. Well, who owned the Titanic? Remember what I said about the word star? Every time you hear the word star, always refers to the one and only star, R.L. Starkis. But who owned the Titanic? Yeah, I'm sure you don't have to search too far for that. But Revelations 22. So here we go. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. So the throne, Game of Thrones, has been a prominent. I think I haven't watched any of it, but it came to an end this year with season 8. Season 8, how apt! Throne of God. Throne is an anagram, pretty much, of north, right, and also of thorn. So very interesting. And the lead character, an androgynous type character, was Arya Stark. Arya Stark. Arya Stark. Arya Stark. Arya Stark. Let's ask Iron Man, FE Man, Tony Stark. Arya Stark. Arya Stark. Anyway. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb, in the midst of the street of it. And on either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Interesting, isn't it? The woman also yields her fruit every month. And the moon also yields her fruit every month with the full moon, once on a full moon. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. There shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. So no more sun will be needed. So when we talk about Genesis 1, the great light and the lesser night created for the day and night, are we talking about are we just assuming it's the sun and moon, or are we actually talking about the sun and moon? I think this is very pertinent as well. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true, and the Lord God of the holy prophet sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. Behold, listen, here we go, pay attention. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keepeth the saying of the prophecy of this book. And I, John, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard them and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel that showed me these things. Then saith he unto me, see, thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant. Remember I read earlier on, beautiful angel, torn apart at birth, limbless and lifeless, I hardly recognize you. So here we've been told, fellow angel, hang on, where did I go to here? Oh, say, yeah. For I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book, worship God. And he saith unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he that is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, for my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega. I am A and Z, right? Remember I said A is 1 and Z is 9. But if we take the code dodo backwards, Z also becomes 1 and A becomes 9. So A to Z, when we look at your A to Z last. Anyway, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And if you look, by the way, at the capital uppercase symbol for Alpha and the lowercase symbol for Omega, or maybe that's the other way around. If you bring the two together, what do you get? You get an 8 on its side for the sign for infinity. Anyway, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. So there's now we're into the tree of life. There's no more need for the sun. The sun only came into being as all of the stars and all of the skylines did with the decapitation of the tree of life. So reunification has, occurred. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whoever loveth and maketh a lie. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. Lucifer is also being compared to the bright and morning star. We talked earlier on about the God and devil. Well, maybe I mentioned it earlier on my own hangout here, but I said it elsewhere earlier on, and I also mentioned it in my last 2 hangouts when you invert, write down God and devil, and reverse the D of the God and put it next to the D of the devil. You have the theta or the 0 with the 1 in the center, connecting the God and the devil. But I'm the root. And so there we have Jesus and Lucifer, one and the same. I think this is the message that's coming as we, as reflections of God, as sparks of Jesus, we have the devil within, and we have God within. These are all aspects of our being. And once again, that HU man can take the road down into the L world, the material, the hell territories, or you can take the world, the road upwards into the TH or the ATH. Right, but I'm the root and offspring of the morning star. The morning star is the sun. Or it can be interpreted as that. So I'm the root of the sun, right? Come on, we need to decapitate a tree. What are you looking into? Anyway, and the Spirit and the bride say, "Come," and let him that heareth say, "Come." So here's my point, right? So this is verse 17. And the Spirit and the bride say, come. What do? You consummate a marriage, right? Consummate a marriage. And, um, you know, talked about this before. The fourth finger, we wear the ring. So I'm a husband and wife, hand to hand, freshly placed rings on their fingers when they put the two hands together. But there's the eight and eight, right? So the fourth finger, and then the ring coming together will give you an eight, a zero, and a zero. So yeah, but here's the point. And the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him that heareth say, come, and let him that is athirst come, and whoever will, let him take the water of life freely. Friends, it always came back to you. It always came back to you. And this is the last book of Revelations. Let me just finish it off. For I testify unto every man that heareth it. So anytime you hear, let him that heareth say, let him with ears hear. And there's a special significance to be gleaned from the words, whether it be from the Gospels themselves, the words of Jesus, or well, these are the words of Jesus as well, right? For I testify unto every man that heareth the word of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. If any man shall take away from the words of this book, the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city, and from all things which are written in this book. He which testified these things said, surely I come quickly. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Amen. The last two words. Come on, friends. Come on. Something else is being transmitted to us here, and well, we need to sort of pay attention. And this is what I pointed out about the Bible literalists, right, been such a strong force in flat Earth, and how it's all about externalization, and you will be challenged to the end. And look, the way I look upon it, it needs us to be challenged, because, well, you're worth it, right? If we take it that we've consented into this, it's the only way you can take it. If I'm being punished for this, for something that I can't recall now, well, am I supposed to live my life thinking that? Wondering what's to come, what did I actually do that was so bad for all of this, no, or I might look at it in a different sense. I think so. Hi, ATN. How you doing? Sorry, Gideon. I never said hello to you, bud. How you doing? What do you reckon of all this sort of stuff, all this sort of talk, right? All this dirty talk. Well, manna from heaven. Manna from heaven. Heaven is up here. It's thought center. We are in this human experience, so everything has to go through the heart. And, we have to, it's about incorporation. So incorporation and reconnection of all our component parts, or no particular component centers, does the job. So, I mean, yeah, transcend, then tell, meditation, then from end to end, from one eye. Well, I was going to say, how many eyes do we have? Loads of eyes. Just depends on which way you look at them. But well, from one end to the other, the seaman has to make the journey. There's an imbuing of the immaterial into the material when every child is conceived, right? So there is that energizing, if you will, of the sperm. And with the orgasm comes the climax, and comes the energized sperm then to seek out the egg, its counterpart. This is what the yin yang symbol represents, I do believe. And yeah, well, love thyself. Love thyself. So as I said, through this process of fasting, our body's physiology changes, and well, yeah, your stomach acid dries up, and your bowel lower section closes off, and yeah, that's the way I see it. Anything you put into your stomach, straight to your heart, and then just pumps it out to your body, and that allows the reconnection to be made. So it goes down one side and up in and up the other side. That's the way I see it. So that would make sense then as well. thinking that our gut is a inside out brain. It's mad thought, isn't it? Oh yeah, by the way, what do you think about this? Our cranium, so its counterpart in terms of an unfolding part, like the brain and the gut, and the gut as well in itself, isn't it? The grand unifying theory, GUT. G and T are brought together. Remember I talked about thought, THOTH, and then we have the G inserted, THOUGHT. So we're incorporating the material, the groin. I'm trying to think of the term to incorporate the G, and we also think about the G, the capital G letter itself, in relation to the theta, right? It's missing a few segments there, isn't it? And this is pertinent. But yeah, so the counterpart for the cranium, for me, the hip, the whole hip bone, or not the hip, what do you call that? Hang on, what do you call that plate? Hip plate, isn't it? No, it's not the hip plate. Fuck's sake, Pete. But now I have to go into body parts. Yeah. Skeleton. Oh, skeleton key body parts are fantastic as well for all the clues that they offer. Skeleton. What's it called? The hip. Yeah, the hip. The whole hip. Yeah. Pelvis. No, it's not the pelvis. That's one aspect of it, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know why this is not coming up now. Oh, you can't. Oh, sorry, you can't see my screen. Oh fuck! I've been meaning to do this actually, and just bring up a skeleton or bring up a, a breakdown of all the components that make up humans. Yeah. I guess what would it be called? It's that whole plate there. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be one term for it. So the way I see that plate, well, the few words I see listed here are ischium, the pubis, the sacrum, and the ilium. So, but they're all that big. It looks actually like a heart shape. I can't show my screen here. Just bring up a picture of a skeleton. That whole thing where your legs come out connected to, and your spine sort of goes down the center. That whole plate I envisage as an inside-out skull. So, what do you think yourself? I'll have to sort of develop that thinking more by looking into all the component parts of our bodies and how they're actually laid out. But I don't think you have to do that, right? It's not as if we can, by nature, see inside. So if someone else had to be able to see inside for us to get a truth, a core truth about the greater picture, I don't think that that's necessary. It can be helpful. We can go elsewhere to find a more basic truth that we don't have to go delving into these extreme depths to figure out. So yeah, that's a very interesting line of thought, isn't it? So bucket. I'm seeing a few other things now in the skeleton as I look at it. I'll say that for another time, but all interesting things to consider. And as I've said, if we think about the male and female part, so there's a fourfold division. It's this is why the zero is twisted into well, it's twisted into 8, but the heart is 4 segments, and it's a fourfold division. But yeah, when we think of the female anatomy and we think of the genitalia as compared to the male genitalia, one is a clear inversion of the other, right? One is being pulled. So that's what brought me along the line of thinking in terms of internally in my own self-contained unit, is there this mirroring going on? So to consider that the gut, the intestines, are a inversion of the brain itself. Fantastic. So, in order for anything to, I don't know, to reconnect, to reassemble, you need to clean out your system. That's what I'm thinking, and you need to clean out your gut, clean out your brain, right? So that's the lines along which I'm thinking of, and I definitely take it very seriously. And I think we all should as well. And Well, what do we receive after fasting in the Catholic tradition of Mass? First of all, Mass is AMSS. So remember, we have, yeah, so that's the fourfold division. We have the 0 divided into the 8, and then we have the 8 divided into the 2 S's, right? So, yeah, Mass, the fundamentals of physical and the religious worlds is AMSS. But what do we do after fasting on Easter to get Easter eggs, right? Easter eggs. We receive Holy Communion. Communion, right? The white bread, the dough. Bread is made from dough. Your semen, very dough-like, right? Wet dough sort of thing. So you receive communion, holy bread on Easter, Ishtar Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, after the fasting. You see? You see? So, things to consider, right? Things to consider. So, okay. Gideon calls it royal jelly. Well, look, we it's sort of like we've been conditioned all our lives to have certain thoughts and certain emotions about certain sort of topics, and to shy away. And that's what I said when I talk about this. You don't have to delve into your own personal habits or sexuality at all. This applies to all of us. So this is sort of instruction to all of us. We all have our sexual desires. We can relate to all of these things. We all have our own business in that sense. But yeah, this is instruction to all. So what I'm saying applies to all. If you're a female, well, I can't go there. I don't know how that. I can't see how that bond would be made. I don't know how the female would make that bond, that reconnection. In that sense, I think the female is more complete than the male. But I don't know as well. But it certainly comes back to the menstrual fluid as well. The bodies are amazing, and look, yeah, make what you will of it. What you know. Yeah, don't spill your seed, Daniel. And I think that's an instruction. That's why I think homosexuality in the Bible is abhorrent, right? It's no gives a fuck what goes on in anyone else's bedroom. But if we would understand, and the Bible, by the way, was written for me. So the Dodo tells, sorry, the Dodo, Aristarchus was decapitated 421 years ago this year when the Dodo was disc covered, right? Um, Easter Sunday was 421 this year. So that date coincided with the number of years that the dodo was owned, if you want to put it like that, having been rediscovered after living an isolated life for millions of years, as the story goes, or a certain calm and peaceful life, and then turmoil came along, right? So this is what it's all telling us. But that doesn't happen to fall. Easter happened to fall on 421 this year, leads me to think that way back when, 100 or so years ago, when they changed, more than that now, when they changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, that they did it with this year specifically in mind. Not an amazing thought. Not an amazing thought when all inside. So so the Bible, written by the same hands that wrote the works of Shakespeare, was responsible for some of the other things as well, but in around the same time, 1611, 9/11 encoded there, and a short few years after 1598 as well, when everything was re-established. So again, the greater hand in play, the hidden hand, they call it, the greater hand, the HH. But what was I saying there? Oh yeah, that's why homosexuality is an abomination, because it's an absolute and utter waste. Now I've talked about this before. My own beautiful Stephen, I didn't reach orgasm. I didn't ejaculate when Stephen was conceived, and so this is shock when Steve arrived. But yeah, we don't need to. So that's what that tells me. We don't need to. You can still father a child, but you can hang on to your vital bodily fluids, and yeah, it's so if a man comes together with woman, right? Even though there's no need to rid yourself, of the fluids, because I'm sure every conception wasn't based on that purity of thought, wanting to bring I would say everyone, but generally it's out of sexual passion, that the children are conceived. But yeah, so once we understand that a child can be conceived without ejaculation, and then whatever other use can be put to your own fluids, um, well, that's the story. So at least if you do, forgive my words, I don't mean to use like this. If you do waste your semen in lovemaking and making children, right? That's something. There's something wondrous and miraculous to show for your expenditure of these amazing vital fluids. But if you're engaged in homosexual activities, well, then it's just a pure waste to lust, and I think that's why it's an abomination. More than anything else, it's not about what anyone else does in their own bedroom. You're responsible for your own self, as long as you're not hurting anybody, and everything's what ideally out of love. Well, then I think everything's okay. So I think these are the greater stories being told. But once again, we're in the Bible literalists. We understand there's such a strong force. It's all about externalization. So yeah, we will be tested to the end, and yeah, we'll be testes to the end, right? Etienne, do you know about the Urantia books? I've read about actually. Well, I've heard about that, and wasn't there somebody associated with those books who turned flat earther? Was it Michael Tellinger? I've heard about those books. If you don't just remind me what the gist of it is again. I probably have a link there somewhere, but I don't think I ever got around to actually looking into, or definitely not reading them. I might have at one stage come across a summary of what they were about, but um, yeah, interesting that pops up again now. So I'll make a note of that. But if you just a brief note of what's the story behind that, ATN, I appreciate that. I'm not going to keep going too much longer now. And as usual, I don't get to fucking. Not that I planned anything at the start. I definitely plan to interact with chat more. That's what I'm saying. Once a question comes out, I'll just march away then with my own tongue, saying what I have to say about it. And okay, Etienne, thanks for that. I will. I'm sure I read sort of a summation of it before, but I will. Okay, I will just put it in. Urantia books. Okay, yeah. I'll have a look at that later on. Cool. Okay. I wonder when what sort of source is attributed to them, or what sort of time scale. As far as I'm concerned, everything that's pre 1598 didn't exist. Was created post 1598, all for these greater purposes, the greater story of life to unfold, and when the time's right, us to be given this ability, first of all, to sort of research for ourselves across time and space, via the internet here, and well, piece things together. So that's certainly the way I look upon it. Strange as that sounds, right? I don't know where else to go with that, though. I don't know where else to go with that. Yeah, I will. Etienne, as I said, I don't read very much these days, but way back on the conspiracy forums and definitely had a lot of stuff to read. There was so many different interesting things to sort of discover. A whole new world of wonders opened up with the computer. As I said so many times, I didn't get back online till 2010. So I had a whole lot of catching up to do. One thing I did land on pretty quickly was 9/11 Media Bakery. After I'd say about 6 weeks, I just a speed dash through 9/11 conspiracy in relative terms anyway, and arrived exactly where I'm at now, which was that we're dealing with another or a completely staged affair with a greater significance, greater symbolic significance. Should we take the literal, we lose the meaning. We think of the three major characters, Simon Shack, SS, Simon Shack, right? SS, that's September Clues. He's pretty much solved it. If you don't go for Simon Shack, then you go for someone called Judy Wood, or the only other person you can go for then is Dmitry Kalazov, or Judy Wood. So Wood and Dmitry. So come on. Same story's been told. But listen, I'm going to have to go here. I won't be able to sing out tonight because it's getting very late. And I should look into YouTube a bit more, or this function here, to see if I can share a screen at some stage. I'm sure you must be able to, but if you can't, I'll probably have to download something else. But I definitely want to get a few more hangouts out, just summating everything. And also, I'm just going to bring my picture image file up and just dedicate a night to going through all the different images and talking my way through them, making different connections here. Ultimately, I leave with the thought that everything is connected. There's no separating anything from anything else. We're in wondrous reality, a wondrous state of affairs, and all of this is the great game of life, and it's all about us coming to piece together all of the disparate pieces that encompass us. That's the way I see it. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, no one else is talking about it. No one else earthwide talking about Aristarchus. No one. That doesn't mean anything to me, because I know that this is the way it's written, right? I'm just following the clues of, whoever laid down the clues, but certainly some of the most famous performers in history are charged with passing on clues. So I guess it's up to us to pay attention where and when we feel the need. But if you don't find the particular avenue that I found, you will find it elsewhere. That's what I believe. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go here, and again, without music. Sorry if I missed any interactions in chat that were questions or anything that were aimed at me. And it's a sort of a difficult thing, isn't it? I can definitely talk, and it's such an arena, right? That there's so many things to talk about. I hope you didn't get too lost in the chat, but the Paul Ford thing is, every area is controversial, so there is no right and wrong answer. But I think once you get to a certain point, you have to be fucking open-minded anyway, but you can't be forceful at the same time about your points of view. There are so many different avenues that are available and made available for us as well to go down. So listen, on that note, I'm going to say thanks very much for tuning in again, and sing a song. That's a parting song. So go to me the parting glass. Good night, and joy be with you all. Good night, friends. I love you, my Steve. Until the next time.